Advanced philosophy memes. We have made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We have made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Shoutouts to Andreas, Declan, Boy Scott, Pedro, and everyone else that engages on my posts. It's Sarah. Keep it up, man. You'll get there someday. And everyone else from Great Memes.
If you or someone you love was hurt by the use of profanity in that intro song, you can tell Kurt.
I
It's good
was
to
Kurt. See, I heard his voice and I was like, that's fucking Kurt. I heard his
Dude.
voice.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's like an anthem about like the Facebook group. That's so crazy how that
Nice.
works.
APM.
Yeah.
Cool. Respect.
So we were just talking about the mid-Atlantic accent.
Yeah.
It's a very mid accent. That's exactly what it is. It's a mid accent. But it's a
There you go.
synthetic accent, and that's what your point was. Dudley Knight created in Rochester, Minnesota. You know about this? Because there's all these different kinds of ways that people talk.
Yeah.
And they thought, well, let's create a new accent, a freak accent, an accent that is of the devil, that doesn't make any sense. And what we'll do is we'll take some of this British idea here, and we'll remove some of the French ideas there and some of the Spanish ideas over here, and then we'll create this sort of amalgamation between the Dutch accent and the American accent, but completely synthetic, and propagandize it in television by teaching actors how to speak this way on purpose, right? So that everyone got used to this accent.
Trouble
How are you
across the
doing?
Atlantic once again as Hitler moves his forces across Poland.
It really
Yeah.
cuts through the mix, you know?
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And then there's also like recording equipment. I wish I could show that easier. Just like 1940s recording equipment devices, something like that. No.
Well, like those headphones with like antennas sticking out of it.
like a tape machine or something like that. So basically,
Right.
when you're recording on tape, and because they had a limited speed that they were recording at, especially with records, also anything like that, the recording could get broken or could have some sort of damage. So they made sure to speak in a way that caught all the syllables, which
Right.
wasn't the way British people were speaking at that time. So British people were not enunciating R. You know, they're like ha, ah instead of R. So they pushed it really hard. And they made sure to like freakishly announce every sound. And that's kind of why it's such a strange sounding accent. But
So, Andreas, you'd probably know this. Where did the California accent come from?
so similarly, right? So like they similarly created the California accent for television. Wait. I hear a lady in the background.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm sure she's a lovely lady. I don't know. But yeah, like
I think it's like a murder podcast or something.
oh,
fun.
weird. You can like hear it through the walls, like
True crime.
That's interesting. So it was like the California accent has like more of like a northern Nordic like influence,
Okay.
which is also similarly kind of weird, but like there's like there's a Nordic influence from like sailors and things like that as well. But also similar to the Midwest accent. So like in the North Midwest, there's like a thing where you close your mouth when you talk more. I don't know if that's everywhere. It's cold, but in the north of California, it's like, hey, dude, how you doing all the time? It's like, hold on.
It's freezing.
So cool, bro. So cool, bro. It's so cool. Dude, if it's like, it's that cold. I don't know if that's like the reason. But
That's
it could be.
awesome.
Is that where chatter comes from the teeth just going? Oh, it's cold.
Chatter is supposed to be a reflex to keep you warmer, right? So like, but what you're
Right.
taught to do, if you're like, so I think this is also a funny thing. Like people from snow places, they wear
Yeah.
jackets, right? But if you're like from Northern California, the water gets colder than freezing, and you're swimming in it. So you have to learn how to hold your body temperature in a way that other people don't. So you can wear wetsuits, but that doesn't always help completely because you're still
Right.
you lose your energy if you shiver too much, which is the natural reaction to try to make energy. So what you do is you like learn to do it in these like kind of like weird Kegel exercise like
Right.
things that you
Yeah.
do like, right? So you're squeezing, and then that's like the closest you get to a shiver is like a
Right.
1 second long shiver. I don't know. That's not really about language, but
For the circulation and stuff. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. And so yeah, I think that's like a major. That's also a weird difference I've noticed because like you can't just wear a jacket in the
Well,
water.
it's a relaxing thing too, because I've heard of therapists recommending like clenching, like you clench your face, you hold it and then you let go, and then you clench your hands and you make flex, and then you let go, and I guess it helps
Expansion and contraction.
relieve stress.
Yeah, it's good to be able to control like the muscles in your body. I think that's like a major part of it. I think it's interesting also with the mid-Atlantic accent that most of the people who have it or originally had it had like really weird, devastatingly weird accents to begin with, and they couldn't be like understood very easily because they came from some weird part of New York that had some weird like immigrant population's accent where 90% of the people couldn't speak English when they were in the classroom as a kid or something. And so then they were taught how to speak English or even French or something in order to learn a new language, basically. So by the time they're doing this, they're learning the sounds more than they're learning, like it becomes a new imprint completely. And that's what's broadcast. Like these people were not, there's no, it's hard to explain how unnatural it is
Sure.
because nobody was speaking that way. It's like completely created.
Well, let me
Yeah.
say this just from what you're saying real quick. Sorry. It's so funny because what you're just saying, and we're speaking of language, and I'm born of 2 immigrants from Mexico, and I'm the youngest of 3 kids, and it's so funny because like my mom always taught me, like, I want you to be Americanized. I want you to speak well and enunciate, and even when I write, that's how I write. I take pride in my speaking abilities and in my writing abilities, but it was always like, I want you to be Americanized, and that was the thing. It was like, it's just funny. So I feel that, and it's
Yeah,
it's
they
funny
totally destroyed.
because where I live, I live literally, 10 minutes from Mexico. And so I'm constantly around Mexicans from Mexico, and they'll come up to me and just be like, they'll speak to me in Spanish, and I speak no Spanish. I'm completely only speak. I mean, I understand it, but I can't think in Spanish. So I
Right.
can't
It's so
build
brutal how
sentences.
traumatized I think immigrants are in the United States to not know their culture. Like it's
Yeah.
better if you just forget all of that and maybe just burn off all like it's a melting pot. So what's a melting pot for? It's for burning off impurities. It's not for like mixing together an alloy. That's not the best way to create an alloy.
Right. It's not
So it's
building.
pretty-
It's reductive.
Yeah, it's a messed up metaphor, right? Because it's basically
Interesting.
saying you're going to lose yourself and you're going to lose your culture and become one with the rest of what America is.
the
and-
Borg.
Yeah, and like Mexico is a particularly interesting example because you had a kingdom there.
No, we
in
took a sip at the
Maximilian.
same time, Isaac. That was awesome.
Cheers. Salute.
Damn.
Yeah, go on.
I was just saying, like, there was a kingdom in Mexico, and then the United States under Polk in the 1844 started killing off the Mexican government. I mean, by 1860s, like Mexico was controlled by groups of terrorists that were financed by the United States.
Yeah.
And before that, Mexico was doing really well. Mexico was becoming a pretty powerful, like Franco-Masonic, but powerful America. I mean, no one would have said the United States of America, the British Canadian or the French Canadian or the Mexican, Franco-Mexican American experiment was the supreme experiment at that time. Like the way today you're like, the United States means America. That's such a weird thing that happened. That wasn't true to 100 years ago, 150 years ago, certainly. And you could say, oh, well, Mexico's a really amazing experiment. But the United States had the Monroe document and the doctrine that said anybody that could participate in an American enterprise that would be dangerous to the United States, we should destroy. So we went after Mexico and we disabled Mexico in like the weirdest way, right? Like we destroyed Mexico when Mexico had a lot going on. Like if you look at like Guadalajara or Mexico City, like they were a far better example of a industrialized. They had movie making, they had cars they were designing.
Right.
There was a lot more in Mexico than people really realize.
Yeah, it was
Romneys from Mexico?
savagery, basically.
Weren't the Romneys also from Mexico?
I mean, not originally, but they went to Mexico around this time because there's also the Mormon Wars. So that's the other thing. There's a lot
the
of
Mormons and the
Mexico.
cartels, like that's crazy shit.
Yeah,
You heard
it's
about
true.
that?
It's pretty true.
Mormon town in Mexico.
But Mexico, I mean, you had after the United States destroys the Mexican government, which is definitely connected to that. Then you have Mexico become assimilated by there's a civil war that's going on between the Catholic Church and the atheist revolutionaries, and that goes on for like 100 years. And basically, they're like iconoclastic. Their iconoclasm of destroying the churches and governments taking over continues into the 1960s when they have a major assassination during the Mexican Olympics. And that's when also the United States becomes, I mean, we already have a drug problem, but the pharmaceutical company starts to emerge next to this overseas opiates and drugs cartel creation. And the money that they're making is just so much more than anything else. It basically, takes over Mexico, right?
What's your cat's name, Chris?
Mochi.
Mochi.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Sorry, random Mexico rant, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good.
But sorry, speaking about drugs and accents, I've noticed that like even in Mexico, it feels like the drug culture sort of like influences like the pace and the tonality of the speech. And do you not think that maybe certain things that were available over the counter during the period when the mid-Atlantic or the transatlantic accent started to come up may have affected that the same way that I am kind of guessing that cannabis usage has affected the California accent,
For sure, I think cocaine was definitely a major influence to the mid-Atlantic accent, right?
Amphetamines too, probably.
Oh
maybe.
wow, I see what you're doing. You're
Eventually.
saying you're these guys were all geeked up, and that's why they spoke like that.
Well, I think a lot of the time you think of coffee and cigarettes and pie, right? And there was a lot of sugar, and there's a lot of stimulants in the urban diet at that time. That's definitely part of it. But I don't think every mid-Atlantic accent is spoken fast. That's just something that emerged because of the practicality of an advertisement to speak that quickly.
Yeah, I just mean like tonally also, how like a certain mood or whatever will even like sort of change where your voice is coming from in your body, you know what I'm saying? Because the transatlantic accent is kind of like
nasally
coming from like right in here. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, there's something about it coming from, it's like, I'll have a bottle of pop, like that whole thing where it's like above, it's not coming from your diaphragm or your heart. It's actually difficult to do if you speak from your diaphragm. I feel
the guy from Mars Volta sings in that kind of head voice.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Ozzy, recent Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, definitely a pioneer of the head voice.
Yeah, but I think the thing, like when it comes to like actually orating, which to me like parallels a lot with the way a person writes. And I've always thought like good writing, like what is good writing? To me, it's when you read something and it's like uniquely that person's voice. It's like you read something and it's like, oh, I know exactly who wrote this. Like that to me means you're a good writer. And funnily enough, like it was I forgot who was talking about this, but they were like, as evil as the guy was, Elliot Rodger was a good fucking writer. Like you would read his manifesto and you could hear it. That's like uniquely him, you know? So it's like that kind of tells you about like the actual like thing of writing and like discovering your quote unquote writer's voice.
Right.
And it's and this is, you know, I always go back to like journaling, and that's really the easiest way to discover it. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't want to do it is because they're like scared of hearing their actual like true writer's voice, because you might not like what you see. You know, you might not like the way your true self writes. You know, when you write something that no one else is going to see, and you read that shit and you read it out loud, you really might not like what you hear, you know? Like, so, you know, I think like when it comes to good oration, like it really does go hand in hand with like good writing, in my opinion.
It definitely changes the
especially
way you go ahead.
especially lyrically, you know, like I've only come, so, you know, I've always heard the term, you know, find your voice. You got to find your voice, you know, as a vocalist and as a writer, I'm a poet, and, you know, I write a lot of poetry. I write a lot of lyrical content, and, you know, it's all through experience, of just, you know, learning from other people, learning from music I've heard all my life, but then actually being able to pull it off for yourself. You know, you have your speaking voice, and that's also your singing voice. And it's same with writing, same with lyrical content. It's like, well, this is how I express myself, what I like to do. Like, you know, I've shown random people my lyrics sometimes because, you know, that's what I like. I'm like, what do you think? Is that weird? Is that crazy? You know, and I've heard, you know, like, oh, it kind of reads like Tool lyrics, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I could dig that. Like, I dig Maynard's style. He's pretty cool, you know." But it's something that's inherent but needs to be fleshed out, you know, and you only learn it by experience, you know, and having a 5-year-old little girl that just sings her ass off every time I take her to school. I'm listening to her and I'm just like, oh shit, it's the next generation. Like, she's getting it, you know. And it's like I almost want to get her vocal lessons. Like, is it that time yet? Or because she's there, she's, you know, obviously she doesn't know pitch or anything yet, but it's pretty damn close, man. So it's cool, you know, once you do find your voice and you're writing, and you know, it's very interesting, very interesting.
It's
Yeah, and
also
it's
interesting about how your accent changes though your voice. Like, right? What if you were raised with a British accent? How would that change you?
Well,
How your
Right.
voice is.
I mean, either way, like when it comes to the quote unquote right, you find your true writer's voice. I guess it's important to be grateful for it. You know, you can't let that get to your head, because you could still be like a terrible person with that shit. Like, you know, think of like some of the most famous writers who are also like terrible people. So what I do, I'm not saying anyone else does, but you know, if you do like find your true voice, just be thankful to God for it. You know, because who else are you gonna think? You can think
Exactly.
you know, your parents or
Truth.
whatever. But yeah, be grateful to God, the big man.
Preach.
And just to touch on some, Andreas, I feel like you were about to dip your toes into how your accent or even your language can kind of like shapes your personality. Well, you know how like sound shapes matter. Period. Um, the way that people like look, like the way that they speak, like how certain languages will use different parts of the mouth and throat, and that will kind of like take shape in features. You know, I think that's a really interesting example of sound shaping matter in like a really tangible way.
Yeah, again, with like if you had like a Russian accent or something, you know, or if you spoke a different language than English, which is also funny because most of us, I think every one of us comes from a background where English is a language our parents really wanted us to speak as opposed to the language that they spoke as kids in the house. I don't know how far, but like that's what it was for me. It sounds like for Dr. I, maybe for Chris and Andrew, I don't know. But like it's pretty close to that, at least a generation or two away from like English being taught to us all. And how would we be if we didn't know English as our primary language, if that wasn't the mode of thought that we use? Like if it was our our ancestors' language? Like, would that change our voice, our inner voice?
Right.
Yeah, they say when you speak Japanese, it's scientifically proven to rewire your neural circuitry in like a more significant way than just learning like any other language. Apparently, I don't know. I can't confirm nor deny that. I'm not a linguist.
I've heard that from every nationalist, man. So like I've heard Greeks say that the most, though, right? Like, I don't know if I could say it like that, but
Yeah.
Of their own languages.
oh yeah, like for like people will say like if you speak a Turk might say if you speak Turkish, you'll understand things from a deeper
Yeah.
perspective.
Your
But a
brain
Greek,
gets bigger.
yeah, my Latin teacher definitely told me that speaking Latin would make my brain more complex and bigger. But I'm pretty sure the Greeks, every Greek I've ever known, and anyone who speaks Greek always will tell you, oh, speaking Greek is the difference between being a caveman and a civilized being, right? It's literally it's the whole idea, because you're a barbarian if you can't speak Greek. But if you can speak Greek, then you understand the language of the gods. That's basically the idea.
Sure.
I think English is God's favorite language, though. Clearly.
I think so too. I agree with that.
That's what. Well, so I think I like Sanskrit, and I wish that we all taught our kids to speak Sanskrit together, so that they could all speak Sanskrit all the time. Because Sanskrit's so wild that you can. It's kind of got all the best features of English and everything else, because you can create words on the fly.
It's musical. It's musical. It's very musical.
I think it's cool, but English.
Even the music's microtonal, isn't it? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, it's not microtonal the way Chinese is. Chinese is way more microtonal than Sanskrit is. But there are tonal differences, like you would say aha or or like there's certain kinds of sounds that you have dual tonality. You have dual tonality for all of the consonants.
2 dimensions, 2 axes.
Yeah, for a strong and a soft version of every consonant. So that's true.
I love English, though. I think one of my favorite things is the lexicon. I think the lexicon is awesome. It's like this weird it's this weird Frankenstein hodgepodge of like Germanic and Romance roots. And I also like I like the concept of consonants and vowels. I don't know why. It's just maybe it's because modern Korean works the same way, so it's a cool system, the way that works. Just those 2 elements. It's enough. It's like lyrical alchemy. I
agree. I like the idea that John Dee thinks he discovered English because he thought English was some sort of an angel, like the language of the angels, English, right? Like he thought this was the true language of God. I think that's the coolest idea about English, is that it's God's language and the Bible's written in God's language. That'd be hilarious. But what's cool about Sanskrit is you've got your vowels and consonants, just like you said, right?
Yeah.
And these are your dual, ka, ka, ga, na, cha, 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 cha. Right, exactly. And that's not as differentiated as the Chinese, Cantonese language, which has like the same sound, cha, could all mean different things. Sui, sui, like water.
Imagine a language you could only speak if you had like a really strong core and diaphragm. Like every word was like, oh,
it's like a test.
Yeah, like you have to be fit to speak this language. And actually, apparently, like there's a Gnostic prophecy, or part of Gnostic prediction is like eventually humans are going to evolve their larynx to the point of being able to conjure things into reality using just their voice. So like they'll say like reproduction will no longer be done through just sex and whatever. They'll be able to like generate embryos in life just using like sound waves and sound frequencies from their own voice. And I don't know, that just sounds crazy to me. But
sounds like a magical incantation. You speak a spell.
Yeah,
it's not that crazy.
It's
not that new.
What ancient civilizations and the Nephilim did. That's probably kind of the shit they were on. Like when it comes to just changing the properties of matter by blasting.
Yeah, there was no physical penetration. It was all sound, right?
I mean, maybe
why not both?
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. So there's two axes that always fascinated me. There was sound and light, or maybe light and sound. It's like because that's really the fundamental nature of everything, right? When it as far as like
they're on the same spectrum, aren't they?
Are they? I don't know. I know they're on a spectrum.
I mean, it's all just like vibrations. So it's, what we can hear is just like a vibration traveling through air because, that's the medium, and whatever frequency determines the pitch. I mean, I think the same wave carrying through light would color it. It's just like so high frequency that, you know, we can't, it's not in the auditory register, it's in the visual one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that sound and light exist. They're both on the electromagnetic spectrum, if I'm not mistaken.
I also think like sound and light is like basically the fabric of actual reality. You know, some would like
Totally.
for a lot of times it would be like space and time or whatever, but no, I think it's really sound and light. I think sound and light is the true interface for our will to actually interact with the quote unquote matrix or the simulation or like the coding. You know, like that's our way of like really fucking with it.
And speaking of like glyphs, coding, just to loop back to language, were there not Greek characters on the Roswell wreckage? Did I make that up, or is that
I mean,
just
I don't
because
have
you
the
know
pictures.
I mean, there were multiple UFO crashes that were reported allegedly that they had like runes on it, and these runes could be translated into some kind of binary code, and it said like "we are future humans," you know, like or something of that nature.
Sure.
One crashed in England, I think, and was like crashed near a military base, discovered by a dude on patrol. I don't know. I know a bunch of these like fucking UFO stories because I just went down like deep rabbit holes. Like,
do you have one of them saying like a language that was familiar? You're saying like human languages that were like kind of like the Georgia Guidestone languages, just a grab bag of famous ones that humans know.
If they were real UFOs, they would have all had Sanskrit on them.
Yeah, right. That's what it has to be.
All the smarter UFO dudes that
Like, this is not a Vimana.
All the smarter ones are always like, yeah, most of these UFOs we see are man-made. You know, we made that shit. You know, like
what are they called? ARVs or something?
UAP.
UAP.
No, the ones that are designated as made by men are like either ARVs or AARVs.
Oh, okay.
It stands for like artificial recreation or something vehicle, or
ARV reproduction vehicle.
Alien.
Yeah. I was thinking about like that's what guys like.
Good band name.
Who is that nerd guy that got his like?
Right.
That got his credentials erased by the government because he tried to like be a whistleblower?
Bob Lazar.
Yeah, so he made those ARVs, a lot of them, or supposedly, like that's what he was. That's what he was trying to claim.
I tend to like follow Jeremy Reese's interpretation of that, which is that Lazar's been allowed to know slightly more than he should on purpose to kind of disclose that stuff exists to the public, but that in general he's kind of riding on the curtails of other research that's really legitimate. There's lots of actual things that are happening. Like Jeremy Reese has actually kind of shown every example of, we've done like huge episodes where they have planes with lasers at the edge of the plane to destroy the oxygen right in front of the plane so that it creates a vacuum that pulls the plane into the vacuum without any wind resistance. Right. And UAPs that use ionic breeze from multiple layered graphenic multipolar magnetic substrates.
Yeah,
right? So that you can XYZ move them up, down, forward, backward.
I mean, the ones that look like crafts were never really weird to me. It's the ones that look like floating sacred geometry and like vaguely translucent orbs or something. That shit is so freaky. You know, if it's like, oh, you know, that kind of looks like a Merkaba, dude. You know, like just a floating.
Apparently, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, what were you saying?
Oh, just apparently the orb is like a space-time vacuum that allows them to not be bound by conventional physics or whatever. So it's like a bubble that's like separate from space-time. That's why it's like transmedium. It could go through air and water seamlessly.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, like I know UFOs must be such an exasperating topic to talk about because like it's really covered extensively on the internet and shit, and there's so much fake stuff out there, but you know, there's
that's
too
why
much weird stuff.
It's good to bring it up because I feel like alien scientist. I don't know if you follow, but yeah, Jeremy Reese, alien scientist, definitely the most trustworthy source and the most verifiable source on all of this stuff. Actual research, definitely. If you want to like go to the source of investigative journalism, you can actually see not only
14 years ago.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've been in the game, yeah.
Yeah, he knows what's up. I would definitely say like you got to follow Alien Scientist. He knows what's going on, and he does the tests too. I would say also, if you follow with real scientists, Bernie's probably in here somewhere. I don't know if he is or not, but he sent me a video earlier today. We should call him up to talk about it with Jeremiah the technician, who also does actual experiments creating ionic lift vehicles, which is pretty easy to do, right? Like, 'cause all you have to do is get like a pool table rack and you electrocute it, and then you create enough magnetic force from the pushing down of the ions flowing on either side of the metal that it rises, right? So you can do that just by connecting it with a wire to a metal rack. But the idea of producing enough force by having an ionic field, that's what Tesla did by just charging a room that had high voltage. Was it high voltage and low ampage, or is it vice versa? I forget. But he has a room that's super high energy charge that you can walk around in. You could pick up a light bulb and then the light bulb would light up. And he's like, look, alternating current is far safer than direct current because then it's channeled in such a way that you can use it. So that's kind of the idea, is you'd have alternating current that could be, yeah.
A source of a source of infinite energy, essentially. Yo, Andreas, I got a question. I mean, well, first I wanna say it's funny how we go from talking about like accents to sound to light and sound to UFOs, because like it's a funny.
Isn't it weirdly connected? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I also want to ask, like, do you think like when it comes to Japanese media, like their cartoons and shit, like, do you think I think most of it really is subtly referencing like occult stuff, like esoteric shit, like when it comes to
it used to be more blatant.
Spirits. Yeah,
I feel like since 2007 it's kind of a bummer because like they tried to like clean up their act or something. They're like, uh-oh, we made our culture too interesting, people are having too much fun. I don't know if I'm being too cynical, but Japan got pretty serious, I feel like, after 2007. They're like, okay, we better get back to work, have a bunch of babies, and like good on them. Like they really should be doing that.
That's what slice of life is for. Like those stories about like no magical creatures, no spirit powers or anything. It's literally just like Japanese high school drama. That's literally, I think, made to induce like this idea of appreciating day-to-day relationships and social interactions, like romance, because there is beauty in that. And that's the only, you can't, like, take America, for example. We're so like atomized and isolated from each other emotionally. You can't fix that through like programs and incentivizations, like giving people money to have babies. That's not going to fucking work. What will work is creating beautiful works of art that depicts like idealized realities in the vein you want. Like, this is why having a family could be beautiful. Just read this fucking manga with all this complexity and emotional depth. And a lot of people will be like, yeah,
right there you are, Crypto Alchemist. I knew. Yet you're blaming me for not having all. Let's do a thing. Let's do a thing soon. We'll talk about aliens and UFOs like they wanted. See? Yeah. I don't know. I definitely think language. Wait, not language. What did you say a second ago? I got distracted by crypto so quickly. It was crazy.
Oh no, because you got you thinking about follower accounts. Yo, fuck that stuff. Follower accounts are not important. They're really not. I mean, because what's his name? Andy Warhol said it best. In the future, everyone's going to get their 15 minutes of fame, which is absolutely true. Like, we live in an age now where any single person could just go viral at any time. So it's like, I mean, he's a real prophet, unfortunately. Like, I can't say I particularly like the guy, but he was right about that.
You're muted.
You muted yourself.
I don't feel like we need to talk about Diocletian right now. It's not really relevant. I don't know. That's all I got. It's Diocletian. How about the Akkadian language? We brought up the Akkadian language for a reason. Was that a thing? Oh, yeah. The Japanese. That's what it was. So with the Japanese, they used to be really interested in like the 1950s. They became all about like accelerationism, and that was cool. So if you watch all the original stuff, it's like, in the future, when people realize that they're wrong about us, they're going to apologize to Japan, and they're going to ask Japan to save them from things that are beyond their understanding. Not just, war or famine. No, like the Super Sentai, right? Think about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, on one hand, you've got these Power Rangers that are going to fight Godzilla, but also it gets to a point where Godzilla becomes a reference for not just exterior evils, but the evils inside.
Yes, the spirit realm. And it's not just the Japanese that were kind of vaguely trying to teach us about this stuff. I think well, obviously there's like Vedic culture and Vedic influences, like, which pretty much leaked into like tech America, like Silicon Valley. which is saturated with like so, because there's, I think the Vedic tradition really had a big initiative with incorporating economy, like finances, money, the concept of money and currency, like Judaism, you know, like they really incorporate that into their cultural. Wow, that's a good one. It's a throwback.
Dude, I love the Super Sentai. It was super great. And like they had to fight these like demons. I'm trying to find the villains. Hold on. Yeah, because like the villains would be like gluttony or like sloth or vanity, right? And in the episodes, it would be that these charming young students who are like the youth of Japan would represent the future and the optimism, but also the benchmark for how humans will have to behave tomorrow, because tomorrow will be today very soon. And so you have to be as good as the Super Sentai, and you need the new doll. That was the other thing. Every season you have a new outfit, so you have to have a new doll, and if you don't, your parents are poor, which means they don't have a good job. No, but that's like part of Japanese culture. It's brilliant. It's part of the deal. You know, it's kind of vicious, but that was Japan in the 50s. And then eventually it's like this explorative thing about who we are, what every universe is, colonialism, the
Creation
Rockefellers. Yeah, and then I think by the 70s, like Dragon Ball Z, everything like Japanese animes, and not just anime, even just their regular television, is exploratory on a deeper level. But then it gets to a nihilist point where Japan's like, what's even the point? And then they start going super deep into the occult, like 80s and 90s is all alchemy and
vampires and
Thelema, right? It's like the deepest level of the occult. Like, did you become a vampire? Because what's a vampire? Well, in the West, a vampire really comes from, and they get to the etymological truth of what a vampire is. Like that, it's kind of like connected to a werewolf, and it's a religious choice to live off this moon energy, and you either do it monthly or you do it nightly. But you have this demon that you have to partake blood of and all these things. And these rules are not the rules that Americans even know. These are the deepest rules, the most forgotten rules that they seem to find the most precious esoteric books, and they're basing their anime on. Like that's what it's like. Full Metal Alchemist is nuts.
Yeah.
Because it's talking about World War II as a human sacrifice atonement ritual to create a philosopher's stone, right? It's 6 million people at these different camps in a pentagram or something like that.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy.
It's
like,
crazy.
What are the Japanese trying to tell you?
It's
you're
weird.
6 when you're watching.
It's weird how they put it in like video games and cartoons and shit. It's like they treat it like it's like toys and like a joke, but it really does bypass rationality and it seeps into the subconscious and it's unforgettable. Everyone loves Dragon Ball, but Dragon Ball is like this crazy deep mythological like rooted story having to do with fucking aliens and shit. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. It's all pretty
I've
crazy.
seen some pretty crazy things. Yeah, I've seen some people, pretty like, I just want to say like, some pretty hard criminals watching Dragon Ball Z, just like sitting there having a nice day, like all day long.
I think one of the reasons, though, the core reasons is that like they were one of the first countries post-industrial era that was literally left to just fuck off with their shit. It's like, all right, now we're gonna leave you the fuck alone. And when you really as above, so below. So what happens when you leave a person like really just alone? Like not like you're not fucking with them. You're not forcing them to do anything. You already nuked them. It's like just leave them to their devices. And that's gonna give you like a dark night of the soul. And I think that's what Japan.
Yeah, you get
had,
weird.
Like,
you get weird.
Japan had a collective dark night of the soul, and they figured out some really deep stuff since getting nuked and getting left alone for a bit.
So how long have? Sorry, go ahead.
It was just a quip. I was just saying they're post-apocalyptic, and to touch on what Andreas was saying, there's like a documented correlation between like when Dragon Ball would release like a new series and like cartel activity would like decrease. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Isaac.
No, it's absolutely true.
So how long, in your opinions, or factual, I don't know, how long has the U.S. and Japan just been going back and forth, like? In culturally, and because to me I'm just thinking of the 80s. Transformers is one of my favorite cartoons ever, and I'm not diehard into Japanese anime or anything like that, but I'm an 80s kid. I grew up watching Japanese cartoons, not knowing that they were Japanese cartoons.
Well, fun fact: did you know that Nintendo was born in the same year as Hitler?
Nice.
They used to make playing cards at first, like when they were incepted in I think like late 1800s. Along
Yeah,
with
it was a
Hitler.
card
Yeah.
trading. Yeah.
And
I was gonna
also,
say, actually, that makes Nintendo a lot younger than a lot of companies in Japan.
yeah,
Also,
and
it's
Nintendo
interesting.
has the same birthday as me, September 23rd. So
Yeah, and I got an NES the year they came out. Just to age
Oh,
myself. I got it going through catechism. I was I was raised
Nice.
Catholic, and they were like, "What do you want for your confirmation?" I was like, "NES, bro."
yeah, but the thing is about a lot of those Japanese corporations, a lot of them have mob ties. Like you think of like companies like Konami, like especially if they're gaming companies with their fingers and like
Mario is a mobster. Like the idea that the Italian family owned the docks that Nintendo had to do their shipping through, and they're like,
Yeah.
we're not going to work with the Yakuza. We're going to have to work with the Italians, and they named it after that guy. It's totally.
It's awesome. Yeah, the samurai and the mafia had to. The late samurai and the mafia had to work together.
He works in plumbing, right? Yeah.
No, that's just the front,
Yeah,
man.
he's the garbage
That's just
man.
the front.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like, I don't even know if I should bring it up, but I'm doing it anyway. Like this, I'm sorry for anyone that shouldn't know about this, but with the Japanese, like they make a lot of different kinds of cartoons, right?
Yeah.
I think you know where I'm going with.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
so
Starts with an H. Yeah.
there's a kind of hentai called Uratsuku Doji, which I'm not saying you should watch this, but what it is about is Urotsuku Doji is about I think this is like the fever dream / reality that we live in, where a portal is opened by fascists, Austro-fascists, Prussian fascists in the early 20th century, and the Americans in Japan, right? Because they stole it from the Prussians, but then they got this evil scientist that they paperclipped, and the Americans do this horrible thing, which is like they launch this they drop from the skies this crazy portal Stargate thing. And when they open the Stargate thing, it like creates like horrible like tentacles that come out of this like hell.
A little on the nose, man.
I mean, right? Yeah. And so basically, it terrorizes and kills and it pillages, let's say, all of the people of Japan in like the worst possible way, and then they have to close the portal. And then this is like what Japan is in the remnants of this held portal that's been opened by the Americans and these Germanic occultists in the center of Hiroshima. Yeah.
Yep. And then it's the road to Shambhala.
Yeah. So I don't, and then there's like a whole other like series about the Nagasaki one too, which is like even gnarlier because it's like related to Esau and like the second blessing or something in the Bible, because you have you'll work hard by the sweat of your brow blessing in the Bible, right? So this is like that's like Japan claims that they demand the blessing. Yeah.
You know how many like Christian samurai there were? a lot of samurai in the late 1800s, early mid
and
to
Ronin.
Late,
Yeah,
they saw the light of Christ, and they were just rocking Jesus. Like they were rocking with Jesus. They were like, I'm done with this killing. I just wanna live the word of God, and and his son.
I always think Christianity in Japan's an interesting subject, right?
It is. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I mean, they were Christians for hundreds of years. It was like a third of Japan at one point before the Edo period. Like, in the book Silence by Endo is all about that. Like, it's crazy how many Christians there were before they shut it down. But also that's like kind of interesting about Christianity in Asia in general, because you can look at the Philippines and how Christianity was still safe outside of Japan after that point. So, I mean,
I'm just saying that shouldn't be allowed. I think that's too OP. Like when you're a samurai and you have Christ on your side, like that shouldn't be allowed. That's too.
Dude, the Catholic samurais didn't just have Christ; they had the Madonna.
Which
even sounds like, you know what I mean? Like
that's
like
cheating.
The Virgin as a shield.
It's cheating.
They should stick with Zen. Samurai should. But to have Christ on your side, man, I don't want to fuck with that. I don't want to fuck with no Christ samurai. Like it's too OP.
What do you? I mean, is it too weird the idea that Christ in Japan? Like Jesus in Japan?
No,
You know?
I think there's a lot of power to Christ. Just
What do you
as
think
the
about
as
the Jesus in Japan? You know what I'm talking about? Like the
There's a
Christians.
there's a Japanese Mormonism. Is that what I'm
Yeah,
hearing?
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. There has to
So
be, and
the
then their Mother Mary is different.
I'm screwing this up for you, but yeah, basically the legend goes, and you saw this, you knew this because you watched Samurai Champloo, so I know you
Yeah.
already know this. Is that they believe that Jesus went to Japan after he was supposed to be killed. He survived,
So based.
and he lived in Japan, and they actually have a shrine there, which we're definitely going to go to.
Oh
This is
man.
it. This is Christ's grave in Japan. When Jesus was 21 years old, he came to Japan and pursued knowledge of divinity for 12 years. He went back to Judea at 33 and engaged his mission. However, at that time, people in Judea would not accept Christ's preaching. Instead, they arrested him and tried to crucify him on a cross. His younger brother, Isukiri, which I think is James, casually took Christ's place and ended his life on the cross. Christ, who escaped the crucifixion, went through the ups and downs of travel and again came to Japan. He settled right here in what is now called Hirai village and died at the age of 106.
Whoa.
On this holy ground, there is dedicated a burial mound on the right to deify Christ, and a grave on the left to deify Isukiri. And the above inscription was given in a testament by Jesus Christ.
That's so sick,
Oh.
dude. That's
There you
so
go.
fucking awesome. Yo,
Right?
I'm living for this lore right now. I had no idea there was
Yeah,
like
that's dope.
epilogue.
Dude, Japanese Jesus is real, bro. Japanese Jesus is very real. Do not
Jesus
doubt
is like your
Japanese Jesus.
standard like millennial travel blogger. He's like, yeah, I'm just spreading my enlightenment all throughout the world.
You would totally go to Japan if you were Jesus. That makes the most sense. Because
Of
like India,
course.
Yeah.
after you were done with India, you'd be like, okay. Because it's like a
Exactly.
safe. If you've been
Their
really
all the
flag is
occupied.
spots.
basically
Hit all the
like a
spots.
Christian flag. Sorry.
Sorry, say again, Andrew.
I was just saying their flag is basically a Christian flag. You know, they have the rising sun on their
Oh,
flag.
true.
Yeah.
It's-
The symbol. With
I
the
want to know
red.
what year he came to California, man. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
You know where actually, you know what's funny though? When it comes to the Asian cultures, East Asian cultures, it's really easy to spot the evil like bad actors. You know, when it comes to like metaphysical power and metaphysical access to reality reworking, it's the cults, like the cultists, because the cultists are the weak ones, and the weak ones are the cowards, the scared ones who are willing to like do all sorts of really dark things just to get ahead because they feel like victims. That's why they're justified in doing all the evil shit that they do as cults. So when you want to look for like the bad actors when it comes to like the occult or esoteric in East Asia, it's the ones who like form in secret and do like cult like things. And it's not even the fact that they're in a cult. Like cults are cults, whatever. Everything's a cult. But when they're like secretive for a reason and they're occult, like hidden for a reason, where it's like they're clearly doing very unsavory things against their fellow man just because they feel like they have a right to, because they're like, this is divine retribution against our enemies that have destroyed our souls for centuries and eons. Like that's
Those
when you
guys
know
who
it's
live just right over there, like 50
Yeah.
miles away.
yeah.
So out of shame, you say basically.
You know who gives a Japanese vibe like that? It's the Black Israelites I see in Manhattan. Yo, they're so based. They look like every time I see them in Union Square, they look like they're dressed like from Final Fantasy. I'm like, yo, these guys are sick. But they always
Sure,
say
it's pretty
some,
based.
yeah, they say some insane shit though. Like, honestly, they hate white
Well,
people for sure.
What's
Like,
what's
They
insane
got
these
great
days?
speakers.
Exactly.
What's insane these
yo,
days?
they see a white guy walking past, and they point him out. He's like, see that guy? He should be killed. You're like, dude, what the fuck, man?
All right. Thanks for the example. Fair enough.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Maybe I don't want to trigger any algorithms, but I was quoting in Minecraft,
Yeah.
whatever.
On a live.
We especially, yeah,
Allegedly.
but we protect endangered species. I guess I don't know what to say. I don't know. The Power
Yeah.
Rangers, to me, is the best possible future, though. And this is like, I don't know if you've seen Douglas Dietrich. Let me find him for a second. I want to get him to talk about things. That was it right there. He's like this Aleister Crowley. What was it? Michael Aquino. His dad worked for Michael Aquino, the satanic military general, and he has got a whole thing about the Japanese won World War II, and it's a
Whoa.
secret.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the Germans won essentially because they disseminated to both sides after and started a Cold War against themselves. And
Well, some Germans won, it sounds like, but not the Germans. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the state of Germany that won, but it's definitely whomever ended up offshore accounts running the world. That sounds
yeah, the
like,
most supreme of them.
yeah, Coca-Cola, the Sol Negro, something like that. And
NASA.
maybe that's what's going on with Japan, is that Japan's building this worldwide propaganda for all of this next generation of kids for this new world order. I mean, it's really Dragon Ball Z that's uniting us, right? And like the cartels and everybody. So eventually we're going to get to a point where we all are bettered by it. This is it. This is the way that the world's going to be saved, and we're going to become Super Sentai for Japan.
Yeah, my favorite ones are the ones with the. I'm sorry. Go back to that picture.
Yeah, for sure. Hold on.
I like the ones with the visors that look like a straight line. Like those look like
yeah.
badass. Like they're
Like
like fucking,
ninjas.
yeah.
Yeah,
But-
the turbo. I
yeah.
think it was the Turbo Rangers. Not that I remember every single one.
Yo, when it comes to the Power Rangers, I think Power Ranger lore is actually really like it's more cosmic and less like I guess spiritual. Because first they start with like, the standard like Power Rangers, based on color, the color spectrum, and then they go into animals. They apply it to like, I'm the Frog Ranger, I'm the Tyrannosaurus Rex Ranger, and then they go into vehicles like Power Rangers Turbo. And then they go into like, and then they go to space. Like, oh, we're the Galaxy Force, we're the Galaxy Police, and they just go crazy. Like, and then they go back in time. Like, oh, we're ninjas. We're the Power Ranger ninjas, and we're the Power Ranger Samurai.
Dude, I
Fucking
really,
love it.
I feel like I can't even. Is this the one? Oh,
Yeah, there's
25th.
too much to get in. Like, it's a lot to dig into with the Power
like,
Rangers.
so
That's way
this-
too
Well,
much.
yeah, like
This is
this
is the best one here, where like he's like all of a sudden he jumps and he's surprised and he looks behind him and he's like, "What? Oh!" And then it's just like, how could there be so many Red Rangers? And then it just goes through them. It's like Red Ranger, Red Ranger, Red Ranger, Red Ranger. And it's like this Red Ranger, that Red Ranger, the Vulcan Ranger, the Google Red, Dino Red, Red 1, Red Mask, Red Turbo, 5 Red, Tyranno
Holy
Red,
shit.
Ryo Red, Red Racer, Ginger Red, Go Red, Timer Red. It's just like,
Yo, could you imagine if all the Japanese Sentai Red Rangers met up with all the American Power Rangers? And wait,
that's the
isn't
thing. There's not as many Power Rangers because
Also,
the Power
is it-
Rangers only started
Oh,
20
you're
years
right,
after.
you're right.
There's like, this is the thing. Like, so a normal person thinks about the Power Rangers and they're like, okay, there's like 20 kinds of Power Rangers. And
Yeah.
maybe that's becoming normal now. But when we were a kid, it was like there was one kind of Power Ranger. There'd already been 30 years, like since 1965.
of Japa Rangers.
Every single, yeah, I don't know if you'd say, I mean, you'd want to say NIP, and you shouldn't. But like there would be that, but there'd be so many Rangers, like of every different variety every single year, because every time there'd be a new costume, because it's a new free show. That's the point. The show's free to see on television, except you buy the doll. It's so brilliant. It's
It is
so out of
brilliant.
control.
It's
brilliant.
pretty crazy. It's like it's all almost like it's better than Pokemon almost. Well, it's older than Pokemon. But I want to say that fuck. Actually, no, I forgot what I was going to say because
Pokemon's brilliant because it's printed pieces of paper. Like it's hard to beat to reduce it to a piece of paper is brilliant. It's basically they created money. You know what I mean?
yeah.
They're like they literally got to that point. It's brilliant with what they did with Pocket Monsters. But
wait, I got a question about Power Rangers though. Isn't it? It's pretty much owned by Sabian, right? Which is like an Israeli production. Yeah.
yeah,
or Saban,
Yeah. So
So
Power
they're
Rangers.
licensed.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Power Rangers is I don't know. I guess like it's not even because Sabian's like it always their movies always seem treated like of the black sheep of like Hollywood. It's like it never seemed like the best talent in Hollywood ever really supported.
they're
Sabian.
not really Hollywood, and that's the thing. Like as you said, they're Israeli, and that's kind of the thing. They remind me of Canon, and I know the daughter of the owner. I'm really into Power Rangers. You know what I mean? So like, but they're shot in Santa Clarita, so they shot most of the high school scenes with people like they knew what to do to make Power Rangers work, and that was the brilliant thing. Like, okay, now
the
it's
kids.
like a 90210 90s high school thing, but that was only relevant then. It's like it became not as important after that. Like now, if you see the Power Rangers, they're shot in New Zealand, and it works better for kids today. I think kids today like the clean cut,
The rural.
like,
the
the
rural
90s
topical.
the early 2000s Power Ranger actors were dying of drug overdoses and things
Yeah.
in Southern California. Now you have these clean-cut New Zealand militant kids, and the show is also merged in a way because it used to be the Japanese shoot it, then the Americans have to copy it, then they cut it back and forth. Now they're shooting it simultaneously, where the Japanese shoot their scenes and the Americans, or the New Zealanders rather, the Western audience shoots their scenes.
That's genius.
And they're mixing it at the same time. But it's never been the most important show in Japan, right? The whole point was it was the cheapest show that Saban could do. He really wanted to use Kamen Rider, right? Kamen Rider is way more popular than Super Sentai. I don't know why we're so deep into Japanese television shows right now, but Kamen Rider is different because it's like, oh yeah, you have the new suit, your parents bought you the new toy, cool. Did you read the manual? Do you know how to use your suit? Because if you didn't read page 47, you won't understand how to merge this part with that part. It's like, it's so much more Japanese.
It's lore heavy.
It's lore heavy. It's also about the importance of knowing how to use your equipment or being the best worker you could be, because you have to work for the company. Then you have to socialize with your group. It's really an amazing anthropological tool to model how they force Japanese people to work together, to drink together, to fight together on a project, right? This is all modeled in their show. But also, Kamen Rider has this weird background about the Illuminati, because it's about this weird... Hold on. Let me just find the Kamen Rider movie, 1971, I think is the first one there. You can see, is this it right here? Yeah, so there's these weird, they kidnap you and then they bring you to this weird place and they're stealing your organs and things like that. And where's the one there? Basically, there's this weird occult group that have all white skin and have these weird cloaks, these white cloaks. And they control everything. I don't know. It's the most terrifying possible thing. And then you're becoming an insectoid is trying to help you. This is and also this is something I probably
this is heavy shit, dude. This is fucking...
why you're an insectoid, right? Because the idea of the hive mind and you're not an individual, the most Japanese possible idea that everyone is part of the hive.
Just insects with really high IQ.
I mean, this was more. These themes are more adult. I think with Power Rangers, that was virtually their Teletubbies.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think a lot of people, when it comes to their Star Child origins, a lot hyper focus on the reptilian, the Draco reptilian, which goes back to dragons, dragon energy, but not, the insectoid lineage is not really talked about as much. It seems neglected almost because, I mean, the insectoids, I don't think all of them are evil, but I don't think all of them are good either.
It's a weird idea though.
Wasps.
Well, but still, to be a bee, the idea of being part of a monarchy where, I don't know, it seems really strange to be an insect because you don't have the individualism that primates share. We're so able to argue. If you were to try to explain to bugs why can't humans get the election figured out, it wouldn't make sense to a bug. Yeah. Because they would just work together easier. Yeah. So I don't think we have... I mean, it's probably a good model for...
but it sacrifices a lot of... I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I was just... their energy consumption is so high that, they basically have to work together in order to provide for each other because of, how many resources they consume versus what they could actually put out.
That's a great point.
But what about hybrids? What about humanoid bugs? Humanoid insects? Humanoid.
Well, I mean, all right. So maybe
any animal, any creature.
I was gonna say, conspiracy theory aside, if you adopt this animal certain energy, first of all, this is where martial arts comes from. If you look at the earliest forms of martial arts, it was literally just humans mimicking what animals did. They were like, oh, this animal is great at killing shit. Let's just do what it does in whatever way we can. Sure. Yeah. So when it comes to mimicking, mimicking an energy of a being, like an animal or an insect, that's basically taking on its patterns.
Actual
genetic
humanoids.
Hybrids. Yeah.
Well, no. Well, yeah. Because in the Vedas, they say there's 4,320,000 species in all of existence. And out of all of those species, 400,000 are humanoid species.
Aliens.
And then there's everything else.
Yeah. No, I mean,
so
all right.
there's,
So
you know,
if you look at Enochian history or mythology or whatever
Yeah.
Greek myth or their sacred text, quote unquote, it's apparently at one point humans learned how to do that, and they learned how to splice together or alter just animal genetics or splice them together with our own, create chimeras basically. And God, or the big guy upstairs, was like, no, you can't do that. That's not kosher. I'm not okay with this. I'm just gonna wash you guys away. So hopefully you guys learn your lesson and then don't do this shit again. Like,
but God created all of them. you
yeah.
know?
Well, I also think there were leftovers too, because there was not all of it was like, for example, if you look at house cats, there's like a lot of myths suggesting that, like the spirit of dragons, like once dragons died out, that's when house cats came about. Because if you look at a house cat, they do have like these weird spiritual, mystical abilities, but also like kind of this blend between like a mammal and a lizard. Like they're the only cats with those like slitted lizard eyes. I think like every other
Sure.
big cat has round like mammal eyes, like pupils. So yeah, cats.
But
I think cats are very
can you conceptualize 4,320,000 species in all of existence? Is that
That doesn't even seem like
is that
many,
plausible?
right? That
I mean,
doesn't
I was
seem
gonna
like
say,
many.
like, I feel like there's like that many fish, like.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
exactly.
Don't tell Tom Cruise.
Yeah, but
and-
maybe it means like bigger than that. Like all fish would be one. Like it have to be like when you get in line, like 12 items, but you have like 36 toilet paper.
how
but
much
it's all one
poultry?
island,
How much? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
question is, so if given the option, like, are we going to do this? Like, if, like, for example, not just like with animal splicing, but even with gender, what if we can
Sure.
use like vibrational shifting of our using sound and light to be able to like change our sex organs from male to female or female to male whenever we want? Is that like, can we, like, should we do that? And like, if we do that, will God give us another flood, or will he be like, you know what?
No,
Nah.
you're not allowed to have a flood. Remember, the whole deal with the flood is that you get a fire next time, right?
Oh,
so like,
yeah.
The fire's coming. That's next.
Yeah.
That's next on the
Oh,
agenda.
man.
Unfortunately.
no
Look,
floods.
see,
then,
I tried to tell you guys with the flood. Now you're gonna get a big solar flare, and everything's gonna get burnt away. And then if you try it again, well, after that is
solar flare. That's the way to look at it. It's gonna be.
Andreas, have you
solar
heard
flare.
of the changing of the timeline of the Kali Yuga? Basically, it's supposed to happen in March, the end
the
of the
Vapara
Kali Yuga.
Yuga? You think that the
Yeah.
Vapara Yuga is happening? That's kind of cool.
Aquarius.
Yeah, well, the end of the Kali Yuga, the Kali Yuga lasts.
Everybody be arguing with me when the Vapara is happening, but I think it's like all around us and it's been started a while ago.
Yeah.
And we're
I kind of
merging
feel
into
that
it.
too.
Someone
Yeah.
actually asked me there, because I know like some people of new age schools would like some of this shit I would write or say, and they would be like, "Oh, so are you staying in 3D or transitioning to 5D?" And I'm like,
It's a parallax, yeah.
and I said, like,
Sure.
I really don't think like 5D consciousness ascension is something I ever had to force in myself or anybody else. I'm just like,
Exactly.
it's like something I'm just leaning on, already about to tip over.
I would nuance that, Ronan, and say it began to end in
Right.
1999. Like, these are
Exactly.
some big old Lizzo-sized like planets and stars we're talking about, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not gonna take a quick. It's not a quick transition. It's not a
Yeah.
New York minute.
No, of course not. I knew you meant exactly.
I do like the idea of the mantis alien insectoids, though. I don't know if
Yeah.
you saw my episode ever with Cynthia Sue Larson, time traveling insectoids, but this idea that basically aliens are probably us in the future. I feel like that's pretty reasonable, and that
Sure,
we'd
but-
probably
Sure, some
genetically
are.
modify ourselves. I mean, if you were going to make a super soldier, insectoid super soldier seems like the kind of the probability of somebody making.
Nah,
an
I'd
insectoid
rather
super
be more.
soldier is high.
I'd rather be more
or
bird-like.
crabs.
I want to be like a
crabs, of
hawk.
course.
Like I want to be
Crab
more
people.
avian. I think avian would be the best.
Crab.
Well, so
Just have
Isn't
wings
avian
crabs.
reptilian though?
I guess there is a shared lineage. I think the avian and reptilian really
It
goes
is.
back to the dragons. The dragons are like the OG, but the dragons are weird because they're like star beings that don't come from our universe. They went through like a different dimensional portal or something and ended up
Wormhole.
here. Yeah.
Well, I like this. This is the Mormon Battlestar Galactica map of everything, and you've got a bunch of like basically 12 zodiac, maybe 13 if you want to, surrounding a center point, and that there's maybe a treaty between these different civilizations and Pleiades sisters or whatever,
Sure.
that something's at the center of. I like that idea. I think that works just fine. And from there, yeah, like reptiles, avians are kinds of reptiles, or
Yeah.
Dracos, as you called it. Draco is the dragon thing.
It also makes sense why there's like, again, like if these entities still exist just on a higher plane of dimensions, like they would look at humans as like property, right? They would be like, see these humans that look like this in this color, these are ours. See these humans that look like this in this color in this shape, this is their ours. You know, like they're all branding us in different ways, and sometimes they
Or
share
watermark.
branding. Yeah, it's weird, you know, like that's
Yeah, but that's humans do that. So of course, I mean, there's going to be
Yeah, we do that
every
to
level
cattle.
of
Yeah.
any being
As above,
on
so below.
any. Of course,
As above, so
it's
below.
going to be in every corner of the material existence. Bullying is everywhere. Of course, why would there not be? It makes total sense. You're going to think you're higher than everybody else. Of course, everybody does. Everybody does it. Everybody's guilty of it. I would say, because according to the Vedas, and I like to say that a lot, but this material existence is only a fourth of the full existence. So the spiritual realm is 3/4, and we live in a fourth of it. You know what I'm saying? And so beyond that is everything enlightened, quote unquote, whatever that means, you know? And so
Metaphysical.
so I really wanted to ask, you had Chris Knowles, Andreas on the last Think Tank, not yesterday, but the previous one. And he made such a big, powerful statement to me, is the power of imagination. He was like, the power of imagination is the most powerful thing in this existence. And I completely, once I heard that, I was like, damn. And then you were like, you want to be on the next APM? I was like, okay, there we go. For whatever reason. And I truly believe that anything you can imagine is possible, no matter what, because nothing is out of bounds.
I feel
in
like
the
it's
power of
also
imagination.
our power, like so imagination is the only real thing in a lot of ways, because our senses are lies. So
Or
every
reality
sense
is
you have,
downstream from consciousness.
reality is down, and also probably tapped into by parasites that are feeding off your sensorial reality and giving you a
And
false
negative
sensorial
energy.
reality. It's giving you
Sure.
so the parasites are making you experience a reality that's not the true reality, right?
Sure.
Even though there is a real reality. That's the thing. It's like everyone will say it's a simulation. I think it's a stimulation. I think you're feeling something, but that thing is not the true experience you're having. And something is feeding off of you. It's feeding off of your senses in order to exist, and it's making it impossible for you to actually get the true signal of what's really going on. And your eyes are photon beams getting hit, which is touch. Your ears are drums, which are getting touched.
Yeah.
Everything is touch based, but electrostatics say nothing can touch. So
I'll be
your
right back.
tongue, your nose, nothing's touched, right? So all of it's just a fake empathy based psychic experience. That's the only thing you should be training, is your imagination to perceive what it would be like to be touched. So imagination's it's the only thing that matters, but you should focus your imagination around these ideas you have of touch-based senses like sight and sound and smell. Trying to imagine smell, I think, is a
Sure.
really powerful
But you
way
can.
to
You can.
right. and it
What is the
increases your
connection?
imagination.
What is the connection between imagination and the soul, in your opinion?
I think it's the real senses, right? So like I don't believe that your sight, sound, touch, all those things are real. I think those are probably tapped by parasites. But I think your
By
empathy,
the veil of Maya. right?
yeah. But I think your empathy and your imagination are the true sense that you have. It's like a tied together idea.
And love, of course, obviously, which is the word that we've given that.
The
Yeah, I
space
think
between notes.
Yeah.
the space between notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a
Love is a
band
hard
back
one.
in the day. And it was like something we came up with, but I named it and we called it Between the Ivory. And I thought that was so like poetic. I was probably like 22 years old. I was like, oh my God, it's like the heaviest shit. But the Black Keys, is right. And then there's a band called the Black Keys, but I called it Between the Ivory. And it's, I just thought that was very heavy. Like between the white keys, there's the black keys. There's that space in between, but it's not black. They made them black for whatever reason. Are they diminishing notes? I don't remember. I'm not that, I claim to be a musician, but I just, I just play the part.
the angles, the angular sounds in between the notes, right? They're the sharp notes.
Right. Because the sun shines on everything. So there's light on everything. That's the only way the darkness exists.
Didn't Paul McCartney like color code his keyboard to teach his wife how to play or something?
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where.
Bicycle.
Yeah, I don't know where the actual coloring of the keys came from. Whether it was like a materials restriction or what.
Right. Yeah, we don't have that. We don't have enough ivory. We got to fill the. We'll use what is this?
I think they were like the Christians thought the sharp tones were forbidden notes.
Yeah,
right?
I was just gonna say. It's funny you said Christians. Did you know that the earliest known recorded Western music is religious? I think it's I think it's Psalms.
That makes sense.
It's Gregorian chants or something like that.
I mean,
Yeah,
first
yeah,
thing
Andreas
on the
has played it
press was,
before.
I like the Gregorian chants. They're nice because it's I mean, from the Gregorian chants, you were able to create like layers of that, and you created that's eventually like as you had one monotone, you had polytones, and you were able to create like chords out of just layering things that harmonize with each other, and there was like a specific math to that. But I do think there was a lot of like stuff before early Gregorian chants and stuff like that that was just lost to time, purposely destroyed it even, like I think they were scared because like these tones could have potentially changed like physical properties of matter even, like who knows, like I don't know, something like that, something of the sort. Like
you've seen Donald Duck in Math Magic Land?
Oh yeah.
Dude, Donald Duck in Math Magic Land, you definitely need to see this at some point, Chris. There's a whole bit there.
Boom,
where
there you go, right there.
Donald Duck has to learn about like what the secret societies used to do in the old days, right?
Oh man.
And so what they did was they'd like meet Pythagorean secret society would meet with a pentagram on their hand. And once they got in, they would make music. They would improvise jazz music. That's kind of the idea of this cartoon. Basically, everyone who knew what math was were able to combine. I think he says it right here. They like combine the note. You can cut it in half, and you have
semitones.
Fists. Yeah, exactly. And this was some sort of a scale that, if Pythagoras didn't invent, which I doubt he did, at least he popularized with his little secret society. Right. That's kind of the idea.
Right.
Are you all familiar with the movie? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Deathgasm.
No.
Yes.
Why does that sound familiar?
It's for anyone who hasn't seen it, I'm sure you guys will be interested. Yep.
Yeah, it's a metal. Okay.
Yeah, and the whole like the crux of the film is this piece of music that if you play it will actually like summon a demon and like help you rise to power or whatever. So this like corporate like Satanist dude is like looking for the piece of music, and this guy accidentally finds it while breaking into the house of like the lead singer of his favorite band or something.
Nice.
Sound to form, right?
There's a new show called Hysteria, I think it's called, or the Halloween. That's what it is. Hysteria, which has Bruce Campbell in it. And basically, it's about like a metal band that realizes they're not going to become famous unless they're more scary. So they become Satanists, or at least they pretend to be Satanists, and they get a bunch of people to kind of aesthetically think of them as Satanists, and it makes them super famous. I like that.
Jennifer's Body. You all seen that one?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's old school. Damn.
Yeah, I saw that.
True. Just
that's a good one.
Near Halloween. Highly recommend if you're in the horror mood for Halloween.
And also Megan Fox is like archonic hot. Like Taylor Swift has that like archonic effect. LeBron James has that archonic effect. They're definitely like Nephilim adjacent or some shit. Like maybe like long-term descendants, or like these people are just unnaturally just same with Machine Gun
Baron
Kelly.
Trump.
Yeah, Baron Trump also. Like they had something going on. Like
I like that movie.
They're like formats,
How to Lose Friends and Alienate People. She was in that. That was probably her like most multi-dimensional role ever, right? I don't know if
They're always hiding her thumbs.
Yeah.
Simon
Yeah.
Pegg. Well, she's got little toe thumbs, man. That's why. You never seen her thumbs?
I don't know about
She's
her
got
thumbs.
toe. No, it's true. They're
Toe
they're called
thumbs, yeah.
literally called toe thumbs. That's my ex has those. They're called toe thumbs.
Oh my
They're like-
god, really? Does she have
they're
weird
like that big.
thumbs?
Yeah, check it out. See, she's got toe thumbs.
Oh, that's
It's
so
like a toe.
weird.
You didn't know that? Oh man, I thought everybody knew that.
Oh, dude, she has weird, thick old thumbs.
That's the only. That's
Hey,
like the worst
everyone's
part.
got
of it.
some-
It's
Hey,
just
it's
a
all
thick
good. Hey.
thumb. It's all
Don't
good.
you think that she like? I feel like she must have sold her soul so that she's pretty for a certain amount of time, and the way that the devil reminds her that she's in charge.
thumb.
Look at your
Thumbs.
thumbs.
It's like in that movie,
Never-
The Substance.
Never give anyone a thumbs up.
You will
are
always
not
know what you
allowed.
paid.
Yeah.
One time, I feel like the first time I heard about Paris Hilton, I was like a kid. I walk in, I'm seeing this TV show that was on E or something about her.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the moment where Michael J. Fox is in Back to the Future and he sees Biff Tannen's whole life story. It's like,
Yeah.
this is the wrong timeline. I felt like there was like that. I was like, did this morning she just get the wish? Like last night she sold her soul
she got
in
the
that
wish.
trailer park in Kansas City. And today her dad owns every hotel, not just in Kansas City, but in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is that what happened? Like, I don't know. It could be wrong.
Oh man.
No, yeah, probably.
I don't
I
know.
wouldn't doubt it. And where is she now?
I'm so also like I don't know. Now that we're talking about time travel narratives and someone just mentioned Barron Trump, I'm always like, I don't know why there's a voice in the back of my head that says, there's a chance that Barron Trump probably like went through this time traveling journey, saw some crazy
Already.
shit to train. That was his training. They sent him back in time as a young lad with his like cybernetic advanced assistant dog so that they could look natural together wherever timeline they go and jump to. And they wrote stories about this. They wrote stories about Barron Trump. And
You
how
heard about the
his-
20 and back program? You know
yeah,
about that?
yeah, where they transfer your consciousness back in time to inhabit a different body in possibly a different galaxy, like in a different planet. And yeah, it's awesome shit.
Or at least like a different version of this reality, like a slightly like a Berenstain reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because like a lot of the guys that came out or people, not just guys, that they were a part of it. It's creepy because a lot of them are dead after a while. Like they drove themselves insane. Like they died through overdose. They died through suicide because they were messed up, which I guess is natural. Like whether it's real or not, if you're talking about this and applying this narrative to your own life, you're like either crazy or you're really traumatized. And that's the tragedy of it. I would feel bad, for anyone.
Does curiosity kill the cat? Is that what happens? Or?
No, curiosity is the cure. I think that's the only way to
Right.
solve any of these like mass psychological maladies, like the standalone complex, for example, is when like you have one like maladaptive piece of behavior that's just being like recorded and copied throughout like say TikTok trends and all that shit. The only thing that stops that is curiosity. It's the only thing that stops that is for people to like say, where did this come from? Like when did this start? And then once you see the where it originates from, then that lets you like isolate it and that lets you quarantine it. But yeah, I think curiosity is very, very important for like human development. Like we gotta stay curious.
Of
It's like
course.
it sounds so rudimentary, but it's true.
Curiosity and a good pair of shoes.
Right.
The 20 and back doesn't have to be for 20 years, right? Like it could be just for 8 years or something like that. There's different periods of time. But a lot of the time the idea is that you can go back to a younger age after you're done with service, which is pretty cool. So make it
I
a
think
liberation
that-
of the planet, right?
Also, didn't Dwight Eisenhower's granddaughter claim also that her consciousness was transferred to like this alternate Mars timeline where she was involved in like a space war or something?
Yeah.
That
Sounds
checks
pretty-
out. I could see that.
That's epic shit though. Like that's if I was a part of some intergalactic war, I would want to talk about it. Like
Well, I mean, there's that asteroid belt right by Mars that looks like it was hit by a nuclear bomb, and maybe Mars won, and the asteroid belt is like the fragments of the planet that lost.
yeah.
I feel like they're like, go ahead and see what happens if you want to talk about things like that.
Well, what's the interest in time travel? Is it to fix things that you fucked up in the past? Is it out of
I mean,
shame? or-
there's a little bit of both, right? Like, so you set up a loop so that if anything happens, you can go back and control that cycle,
Yeah.
right?
And
So
harvest the energy.
if anything's going on that shouldn't have happened, they can go back to 1968, right? And if anything happens that the Chinese don't want going on, they can go back to 2000. Was it 12 or something like that? 14. And so also CERN, right? CERN can go back to 2000. I think CERN can go back to 2012. The Chinese can go back to 2016, but they're stuck within loops. But the
Sure.
oldest one that's running is either the United States one, or if the Iraqi Stargate is really still going from like 3000
So it's just
BC.
another aspect of control to control something.
It's the control
But
of the
on
cycle, right?
on an individual
order.
level, what is an individual's interest in time traveling? What's
Tourism.
on an individual? Do you guys want to time travel?
No,
field
I
trip.
personally don't want to time travel.
I don't want
but-
to either. Why?
It's a
But
one-way.
I time
but
travel
however-
in here.
However,
all the
no.
time.
I will say this: like, let's say if I was married to a woman I really, really loved, and
Sure.
some tragedy befell her, and like she got unalived, and if someone gave me the chance to say, "Hey, if you go back in time, the deal is you do this for us, but the deal is also you get your whatever wife back," I'll probably say, yeah. I would. There's really not a lot of things I might not do for love. You know, like if you love something and someone, and maybe.
But what
that's
if you
toxic-
save her that day and the next day she dies again? You're like, fuck, I gotta do it again.
Yeah, didn't you watch the Time Machine, bro? Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I would
Yes, Roger.
eventually. I would give up.
Yeah.
I would give up eventually. I'll be like,
I
well,
only
there's
have
no.
one
All right,
soul.
you got me, fate, you got me.
Yeah,
it's
I'll be
one
like,
less-
dude, I get it. I learned my fucking lesson. I'm not gonna.
No,
come
dude.
back.
Once fate gets me once, screw fate. After that,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be.
yeah, you win.
I'll
you
spend
win.
like the next season of that
Obsessive-
show
yeah,
trying
I'll
to
be
get
like
it back.
6 million times I'll do this. I don't care. I'll do this over and over again.
And
Yeah.
reincarnation and
Yeah, dude.
reincarnate and
Like the-
reincarnate again.
like the Flash.
You keep putting quarters in. You're just like, fuck, I'm gonna beat this fucking.
I thought-
damn it.
The Flash. Did you see the Flash movie with?
Yeah. With the
yeah.
old school Batman, that was pretty cool.
I just saw the
I thought it was
ending.
great.
That's the only part
Yeah.
I saw.
I thought it was
The
pretty
story
good.
was good. The story was good. I didn't like the effects were lazy, but you know.
Well,
Anytime
yeah.
you
I
put
think
in
they were-
1989 Batman and anything, I'll watch just that part. That's the only part.
Ezra
I'm
Miller.
interested in.
Ezra Miller clearly pissed off not just the right, but the woke as well, and so they didn't really care about that movie. Which is funny because it's a pretty cool movie. He's running around saving babies, in
Yeah.
slow mo. It's pretty cool. But that idea of the time loop is really important. That you could get trapped in a Mandela effect where you're shaving off. You're always stuck within the amount of time you have to work with. So the only way out of that is to create a new initial set of conditions, which can be very similar to the other sets of conditions, but
Mhm.
without being able to calculate
with a little
exactly.
buffer, yeah.
Yeah, so you could maybe figure out what kinds of conditions were necessary to make this moment, and then cause those to create a new galaxy that has the same conditions, right? And it's funny because the idea of multidimensionality doesn't even matter at that point, because in the same space, you just set off the same conditions. So
Yeah.
then the probability of that happening naturally is already higher than anything else. If you're saying that space exists and all of these things are out there and that this happened, well, then it's so crazy that this happened that that's the most likely thing to happen. That if there's already more material out there, this is the thing that's most likely to happen. So you're likely to see identical versions of yourself in this universe.
Yo,
I got something that
you're gonna love. Okay, so there's this game. Well, I mean, first of all, I want to bring up just quantum computing, because that's the only thing known to man that could have enough computing power to really actually flesh out entire simulations for a whole different version of a universe. Like our world, just slightly different. So there's this video game coming out called Alters. And what's interesting, well, the backdrop is like you're this spacefaring future traveler, and you get marooned on an asteroid or planet or whatever. And you come across this vital element that allows you to use your quantum computing to create clones, right? Except these clones are alternate versions of you from if you say, instead of studying engineering in college and you studied you just went to the military and you lived out that life for 20 years, you get to clone that version of you, just because that quantum computer is able to map out your entire lifeline just in a different version. And using that material, you're able to rapidly create a clone of yourself that's lived that lifetime. And I think about that, and the advent of quantum computing would kind of give us some vague access to that. Like maybe not like a whole human, but
I mean, we're there now, and that's kind of the goal, is to be able to figure out what gaps are missing to make something that is authentic enough, because there's so much information that's missing to create another person. But you could influence an already existent person to become very similar to a person that's already existed in the past.
yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not necessarily going to be used to make people more like Jesus, right? Like, I
Right.
think that's very likely to lead to a Boys from Brazil scenario. Maybe not like the painter. I don't think that that's necessarily even that useful of a goal to evil people, but metaphorically, to create like a docile, authoritarian, submissive soldier, super soldier, that insectoid thing makes more sense.
Yeah.
You take away anything that's like, I want to be individualistic, and you focus on this kind of
I want to be a communist.
I'm just gonna call it normativity, because I feel like that's the best word, that's safest word to use. But something that's looking for normativity and says, okay, what's the normative? I'm gonna be like that. If
The
that
least
was
common
your-
the lowest common denominator.
that's a
That's a very
trait.
cruel term. That's a very, very cruel thing to call someone, by the way. If you're listening, don't call
Yeah.
don't call someone the lowest common denominator unless you're ready for a
Well,
fucking
it depends.
fight.
Unless they are. I mean, then.
Well, I mean,
then it's
I've
just
met
true.
people who are like, my ex used to call me that, and I hated it so much because he was right. I am the
Right.
lowest common
Well,
denominator.
I remember now, like in school, there was a kid I thought was cool, and I know now they're like the least successful and most miserable person from elementary school that survived anyway. But
Sure.
that they were in one day we did a mathematical study of everyone, and they figured the mean, average, median of everything, like who's the most average normal height, who's the most average normal eyesight or
Who's
color,
got the
or
average normal penis size?
They-
Who's got the average normal
barring-
boob size?
Everybody, no?
it probably would have measured into that, but not quite. But like, this person was so normative, and I think that they were the most popular person at that time in elementary school, but they ended up probably the most miserable. So I don't know if that's correlated or anything, but it's just crazy how normativity in a new environment where everyone's so different from each other, you're trying to find something that really ties it all together, and that can make somebody more popular, or it can be an asset to their survival, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's got their own loadouts. But I always say
Yeah.
this, like, even if you start out with your own loadouts, like when you max out your stats and your levels at, in the post game, the late game, then everyone's already overpowered, right? Like if you work with what you got to an optimized way, like, at that point, I don't know.
I think we also are more normal than we used to be, though. Like 100 years ago, or at some point, we were more alien to each other. We drank different water. We had different parasites, and now we're so much closer to each other. I think we're so much more similar to each other, even thinking the same way and speaking the same language. That probably makes us more similar. Maybe our faces are changed just because we speak English. I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
seem like that different from each other. Like,
Maybe English
might
is
have-
more like the Nephilim, and then the Cyclopses and the Titans and the
So,
They
what do you
spoke
guys
Greek.
feel about human devolution? Do you believe that human devolution is a real fact, like a fact, or
No.
Yeah,
because
sure.
Well, I mean,
I totally
evolution
believe
is just-
I think believe in
Humans
dis-
evolve
I believe in
themselves.
dysgenic patterns, definitely. Like I believe in dysgenic trends within like family lines and lineages. You see it, it's just unfortunate, but it's true.
I'm trying
Are you
to
talking
find
about like the
article.
actual degradation at like
Yeah.
Yeah.
DNA
human,
And the
poten-
thing is-
human potential.
And the thing is,
degradation of
and to
human
make it
potential
to make it
through
worse,
time.
I don't think it's just influenced by like sex and like reproduction. I think like
No,
just regular societal influences could also severely like devastate your
So,
genetic line, like
you
just
gotta
from, like,
read-
like trauma,
Go to science.org. Early humans domesticated themselves. New genetic evidence shows, and you can see how humans domesticated themselves. To be tameness was selected in our own species. To be tame or not tame, and this every 20 years or so you have a war. You kill off all the untamed people. The tame ones survive, and then the more clever ones who can avoid war. And this is something that some societies groomed for war, but for the most part, it seems generally throughout civilization, it's the people that didn't go to war, get this, that survived.
But that's the fight between the gods and the demons. The demons are the lesser of the gods, right? They're not tame. The tame are the gods. So it's been happening ever since. It's still happening. Yet we're on a physical plane. We are devolved.
I think the gods can be pretty violent. Like even
we don't
in
have
the
psychic
Vedic,
powers. We don't have, I mean,
Well-
some people do, and they have the potential, but not to
dude.
the
Earlier today,
degree of
earlier today,
what was before us.
I wanted to use my sauna thing, and then but it makes like a bubbling noise, and my dad didn't like.
I
the
love that you have a
bubbling noise.
sauna, by the way.
I know it's first world problems if I ever heard of them. But my father
It's
said,
awesome. It's awesome. It's
my
good.
father said he didn't want to hear the bubbling noise, and I'm like, well, you're just gonna you're gonna hear the. It's like, what does that even mean? You're gonna
Yeah,
live with
some
the bubbling.
earplugs. There you go.
No, sit in your room and watch television, enjoy yourself. It doesn't bother you. He's like, I really don't want the bubbling noise. I'm like, why is that bother you? He's like, I really wish you wouldn't use the bubbling thing. I'm like, come on, just sit down. And he goes and he sits down, and then the power goes out in the house.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like,
Ha.
did he pull the plug or something? No, he just really wished, in the most primal sense, that that the thing would I just wish he would turn that thing off. And it just, I mean, this dude is pretty psychic generally, but I mean, the whole house just boop, just turned off all the power in the house. I mean, I think that's real. I think there are definitely psychic people out there, and
Sure.
it's like fire starter. You have to control it. It might get to a
Yeah, but
point
there
where
are
you can't.
there are degrees of power. There are degrees of.
Which on that, did you guys see The Men Who Stare at Goats, the movie?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
So
Yeah.
good. I mean, it was a good time.
Not in a long
Just pause
time,
for
but-
reflection. Yeah, nice feeling.
Yeah.
Because there was
No,
one
sure.
there was one scene where George Clooney's character walked past a bunch of high tech intelligence monitors with their computer terminals, and they all shut down. He's like, "Did you shut down all those monitors and terminals?" And he was like, "Yes, sir, I did." He's like, "Far out,"
Well, my dad has a history of that. So in law school, he was the only one to pass the bar exam in his bar test because the power went out and everyone else was freaking out, and he was the only one who had a mechanical typewriter. And there's a number of examples where little things like that have happened. So I don't know. It could be that there are people that just have energy around them, but I also think that they have made it easier to survive if you were more docile. And we've done this with animals. We can see the difference between a wolf and a chihuahua and see
Yeah.
that we've domesticated.
And
And it's
cats.
been a benefit to an animal to be sweet, cunning in a sweet way, right? Domesticated.
Also, look at dogs. Dogs
just
are honestly
cooperation.
one of the dogs are I think one of the are a leftover of old school ancient human civilization methods of genetic technology. That's what dogs are. They were the remnants of what we used to be able to do, and then now we're able to just create Chihuahuas and German Shepherds and pit bulls and
But
Great
weren't
Danes.
they still pets to the humans at that time?
Yeah, but they're also utilitarian, right? You could use them for hunting, security. You could use
Sure.
them, for pest control. You could use them for comfort. These are actually examples of genetic engineering. Early examples of genetic engineering,
Yeah.
over generations
well, look
and
at
generations.
pugs.
Yeah,
Jesus, those
I
poor
mean, but-
things.
also,
I'm not sure if Stefan is gaslighting us right now. I'm pretty
no,
sure
this is a good movie.
I feel like you have to have seen this movie, right, Stefan? You definitely know Men Who Stare at Goats. You're not just messing with us, are you? But you need
Men Who
to
Stare
have
at what now?
seen. You need to have seen the Men Who Stare at Goats. It's an essential film. There's no way around it. You have to watch that film.
It's incredible.
And don't use torrents. Sorry for showing you that link.
What's
Poor-
wrong with torrents?
I feel
No,
bad
it was-
for the
I mean-
goats.
Oh, okay, never mind. No. I'm saying, yeah, don't use torrents. You can't use torrents.
Right.
Yeah, you can't use
Aw.
torrents.
Don't use what
Aw.
now? Torrents.
No,
Exactly.
torrents. Don't use torrents.
Torrance, California. No way.
Yeah, Torrance. Don't go to Torrance. You don't wanna
Yeah,
go
that'd be
Nothing
that's
happening there.
sweet. That'd be
Yeah.
bless you all. Right.
How-
I don't know. I think
How
I
is
think
there
human
no-
investigation's a problem though. Yeah, we have to be careful of that.
I'm just wondering how there was no electricity bender in the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, because I feel like interfacing with electricity is of all the elements, save water. I feel
Firebenders did it.
I think the future will be like a combination of all four of them as Captain Planet, and he bends electricity. That's like
There you
what's
go.
coming.
No, but the
Agreed.
firebenders did.
I see
Firebenders
that.
learned how to bend electricity. The lightning
Huh.
benders. Azula, like she was literally
Oh.
channeling lightning and shit because that's like prodigy
point.
firebender shit. And eventually, like later generations were. I think the thing was, is like all the advanced bending techniques were occult until like they got modernized. It's like, oh yeah, anyone could fucking metal bend. Anyone could fucking
Hello.
lightning bend
Just
and
bend
shit.
your
you know?
camera.
Yeah, no, anyone could do
He was
this.
getting really
so-
angry about bending. Yeah. But
No, I mean,
it makes
I
sense
love
that
the series.
firebending would evolve because firebending was like the one that ran everything. So if all that's left after they destroy everything else is firebending turns to an electric society, kind of makes sense, you know?
Hmm.
I think to an
Yeah.
Would fire bending be the most potent of the energies? I'm
No.
just asking.
I don't think that they were like more potent than each
Well,
other.
you know,
right?
it kind of reflects the zodiac, right? You're either an air sign, earth sign.
I'm a fire sign, so
I'm an
that's-
air
I'm
sign.
asking.
You know,
I'm
apparently
asking for
air-
a friend.
Yeah, I'm clearly an air sign. Everyone says it's like obvious that you're an
Yeah,
air
I'm a
sign.
Leo all day, so just
Oh, me too. What's your birthday?
respect. July 23rd.
Oh, okay, August 4th.
Respect.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
I
like
like-
to be in. We like to be out in the front. And,
Well, I like
and
fire
speak.
signs because like the air just like feeds the fire, right?
Yeah.
Sure. But
I
they
mean,
all
air-
work together, right? Fire
Yeah,
and
they
water
do.
make steam. You got to.
That's
That's the
right.
thing.
It's that rock paper scissors circle, you know.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
I feel like electricity would require all four of the signs. Like that's what makes the most sense. But
Yeah, I
I
think
like the Fifth Element.
The Fifth Element was good. That was a good movie.
Yeah.
Mila Jovovich, she's a total cutie.
Multipass.
How old is that lady
Sure.
now? She's like
Carbon
probably like
Dallas,
26,
multipass.
27. That's what I'll tell
Yeah,
her. Say, how old are
that's
you
what-
now? Like
Peak,
26, 27?
peak.
She'd be like, oh,
She'll love
stop
it.
it. You forward young man, you. And I'll be like, what, Miss Jovovich?
Miss
Dude.
Jovovich.
She's from Kiev.
Jovovich. Yeah, no, Fifth Element was great. It had great action scenes. The whole like the bandage outfit is iconic. Like there's so many
Mhm.
cosplayers that like to recreate it because it's so just imagine wearing like seatbelts, white seatbelts to cover your privates and your delegates, and just that's your outfit, and it's pretty crazy. Also, that blue lady. The blue lady was also very iconic. We all know
Yeah,
the
the opera
yeah.
singer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The
One
diva,
time
the
I was at
diva,
my
that's what
friend.
they
Yeah,
call her.
I was at my friend's house. We were watching Fifth Element, and just at the scene of the diva, like my friend just randomly changed the channel, but his sister walks in and she goes, "I know you were watching Moulin Rouge. Turn it back on." We were like, "No, we were watching The Fifth Element."
Dude,
Yeah,
I actually
good
like
movie.
Moulin Rouge though too. That's a good movie too.
Both good movies.
But Fifth Element's got like this quality to it. 'Cause Matthew Perry at the beginning of the movie that they're hiding that the Catholics knew the entire time that it was aliens, I think is a great subtext. That there's always been a secret society that knows it's aliens, because we always hear that and this is the thing that bothers me about NASA or Flat Earth or anything else, is that it takes away from the idea, like regardless, science will tell you that aliens don't exist, but space is real. I feel like it seems like the other way around. Like the thing that they're showing you is this paradise to them where they don't have to worry about science. But the aliens in Star Trek, like the demon alien luminary thing, seems like the most reasonable thing that they've ever presented. Yeah, there are probably conscious entities that you're interacting with from other realms than this realm. That's very similar to going from one port to another port. That seems like the thing that they don't want people to fully admit to themselves, but also be aware of all the time, right?
Well, I could distill the fear in like a very simple way that's like very tangible for like, people, anyone to understand really, because what you're talking about is basically this. It's like, what if we lived in a reality where we realized we could make ourselves happy or sad using just our thoughts whenever we want? And I think
Sure.
I think Jack was the one that made it really scary, because he was like, well, that means I could just nuke you and be like, well, it's just a joke, you could get over it, right? It's like, it's no big deal, right? And that's very scary to live in a magical, mystical world like that. It's like, you're just going to have to get over it because this is something we can do. And like, you could control how you feel about it, right? So why are you feeling sad about it? Why? Like, that's scary. You can't do that like irresponsibly. This is why, like, I think there is some virtue to this like secret occultness, there and the seemingly on the surface like non-ethical means of like secrecy and preserving it. But think about the other extreme, like when it's all out there.
How many of these occultists do you think go to therapy and like seek?
Well, I mean, it's like therapy. The
Not
therapists
enough.
are also under the influence of the
Come on
occultists.
now,
You know?
come on now. They got to find it within themselves, even though they're a part of this club, right? Because we're all in the same fishbowl, man. Like,
Yeah.
Therapy's such a weird idea, though. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of therapy? Like, there's the kind of therapy where
The
you
best
just work
therapist
on
is
it
like,
and-
I don't ever want to see you again. That to me is a real therapist. Like, probably like a shaman. It's like, listen, what you're gonna go through with me, you're gonna go through something where you're gonna see something, and by the time you see it, you're never gonna want to repeat this. That's what's gonna keep you.
I think
fucking
this is
straight.
the best therapy is just talking and just communicating with people that at
Well, I mean,
least
like
have
depends
some
on how
sort of,
deep your
you know-
damage is. Some people really need to go through the
Sure.
fire. They need to walk through that fire that just like strips away all the bullshit and all the trauma and all the grudges and all the unloaded business and all that stuff, like the uncompleted stuff. And once you strip all that away, then I guess your true self could come out, and you realize your true self is nothing bad. You know, like no
No.
true self is truly bad. No true self is truly evil. Like I think I truly have faith that, you know, like if you strip away everything within like any egoistic human, you'll only see something like relatively pure, in my opinion.
Of course. Purity is always at the base level. Always, you know?
There's probably
Because-
things you
yeah.
can't communicate very easily with words, though, right? I get behind the whole like take a pillow and beat the pillow approach to
Yeah.
if you can't talk to your father or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's
Oh
dead.
yeah.
But that's anger, fear based, you know, that's not sensical. You know?
There's a healthy way to process those illogical feelings, though. You know, like as long as you're not hurting anyone, sometimes you need to get that stuff out.
Of course.
Exercise the demons.
Everyone's gonna get annoyed
Yeah.
if you like open source Scientology, but I feel like the Dianetics, auditory,
I'll be right back. Sorry.
visual, the whole idea of having multiple, like sensorily, that's the like Dianetics is pretty useful. Like I wouldn't pay him, but you know,
I bought
You
the
can-
book.
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Although-
well, actually, no, I was thinking about spending like $300 on all the collection of the Gateway process, like from the Monroe Institute CDs. So like, I know what it's like to want to like spend a lot of money to access altered states of consciousness and shit.
Damn, that's how much it is now. I got it. for
Well, I mean,
$8.
no, I'm sure you can go on
2004.
eBay and find like different CDs for different prices, but like to get the whole collection, it's gonna cost you like a pretty penny, like at once.
Yeah, and whatever
Yeah.
you do, just don't ever torrent. Like never ever go to
Never
pirate
torrent.
Bay
Yeah, torrenting is
proxy.
bad.
Don't go to
Yeah.
torrents.
Don't
This
do
is
that.
this is what you don't
In
want to do. Yeah,
Minecraft.
yeah.
Go to Compton instead. Go get some Roscoe's, you know, chicken
Oh
and
my
waffles.
god, it's crazy. So what was that thing called again? Operation Clambake? What are you talking about? What? The Inner Secrets of Scientology? What? I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, so Xenu.net. Dianetics.
No, okay. So, how many? The problem with Scientology is like I don't know if it was supposed to be. It's a shell. I think it was like a shell, but there was no way it was that serious because when I really think about actual mysticism and actual occult and esoteric
Holy
stuff,
crap! Wait a second.
This what we means.
I'm just kidding. It's good because Kurt's here. Hey, Kurt, we love you. We're talking about Dianetics and Scientology, which is our favorite religion. And Miscavige is a dreamy, handsome, very tall man. So anyway, you were telling us about some of the
Jack Parsons
greatest.
connections.
Never murdered anybody.
You were telling us about some of the greatest reincarnation in his dream. So you were about to tell us some things about what you love about Scientology, right? That was what you're saying, Chris.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So no, I was
what?
gonna say like to tap into that, and it seems a lot simpler. Like just look at guys like Aleister Crowley. He was one guy that was able to like create his shit, and like a whole society of like millionaires couldn't make this shit work. Are you fucking kidding me? Like that means they didn't get it. Either that or it was built to fail. You know what I'm saying? It was built to fucking not go anywhere. Scientology specifically.
Scientology is pretty like it's got some funny things. Like so, I remember when Clam Bake happened and we had all the data like it was available on the internet and we're looking at it. It's like a lot of this stuff isn't that crazy. I mean, the idea that there are multiple realities, that this reality is similar to other realities, that things that you would think of as being super alien are actually just kind of an effigy, not that different from your own reality, like that their psychological borders are more important than anything else, that ingrained memories are triggering responses in you, that your entire reality is built around stimulus, instinct, responses, but that those are trained because you're a tabula rasa. That's all pretty reasonable. That's not that out of control. And I started with the weird stuff because it gets more reasonable from there, that you can learn to control your ingrained memories, that you can figure out through studying your senses, your memories of senses, sound memories, sight memories, smell memories of senses, your emotional traumas, and why you respond the way you do to new stimuli. Like, let's say you hear a shattered glass, it reminds you of the time that you got yelled at because you shattered a glass, and you start freaking out at your kid. Like, these are the, or maybe you were in a car accident, and there's a great Dianetics episode on YouTube where a dude breaks up with his girlfriend because she wants to get married, and he's thinking to himself, I'm not ready for a commitment, because when he was in an ambulance one time, he heard the EMT say he wasn't ready for a commitment, which sounds ridiculous.
I hope I never hear an EMT say that if I'm in the ambulance. He's like, I'm not ready for the commitment. I'm like, oh,
but you know, he's talking about his girlfriend, or maybe like buying like a new watch. I don't know. It could be like all kinds of things. But these little things do happen where like you're in a traumatic mode. Maybe you got yelled at because somebody got hit with a baseball. Maybe you got hit with a baseball in Little League, and somebody rushed out, and the way they wanted to help you, now the way you treat trauma or emergency or thing is influenced by the time that everyone, how they reacted to you going through this event. That
Yo, to interject real quick on that, like, I think there's two kinds of traumas that will really be a slippery slope to just getting you to good places. There's the first trauma of like a near-death experience, right? But then there's the second trauma of an existential death, where it's like, like ontological shock. Those are the two where it's like physical, like where you get close to physical death, almost like where you did go flatline for X amount of time. And then there's the existential crisis where, oh, fuck, like I don't matter. Nothing matters.
It's too bad Kurt left, because I was going to use the example of like if you crapped yourself, like let's say at school, because that's the exit. If all of a sudden your whole, like you were cool.
Here he comes, he's back.
Kurt, think about it. Because if you were cool at school and the ladies liked you, and then all of a sudden you crapped yourself in gym or something like that, you had some sort of a situation, and you're no longer cool ever again, right? That's like worse. That's like the ego death.
Well, the only thing I can add to that is that sometimes it feels like life plays out in reverse order from high school, because like the quarterback eventually becomes the drug addict and goes to prison, and then the guy you thought was a nerd kind of gets jacked, and then has like 5 children. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like high school. Like, it sounds like stereotypical or like a meme. I don't know. But high school, very much, at least for me, it did play out that way from like my friend circle. I don't know where I fit in. Like, I don't know how I inversed from high school, because I don't know what to make of myself. Because, yeah, I was.
But I didn't. Would you say?
So what you're trying to say is that trans people are the most well-adjusted.
I don't know.
No, Kurt, wouldn't you say you're the exact same person you've always been the whole time? From that point, with experience just kind of layered on top, but you're still the same guy.
No,
right?
I don't think so.
No man steps in the same river twice, because it's not the same river, nor is he the same man. But yeah, there's a degree to was it Socrates? I don't know.
I'm still imagining you like in a river of crap. I don't know why. I feel bad, but you're holding a cup of coffee.
Not that the Ganges. You're in the Ganges, bro.
Right.
People dip in that thing all day long.
I wonder if that metaphor is true in the Ganges.
Dead
I
bodies.
really want to have an AMP meetup, like advanced or APM meetup. Sorry. I said AMP. I meant APM.
APM.
Yeah, an APM meetup. I would like it to be in Sandusky, Ohio. Or somewhere in the midpoint of the Americas, maybe.
Sandusky, interesting.
What's in Sandusky?
I don't know. I heard it's nice out there. Or we could meet up somewhere
Fireflies.
else. What about Tennessee? Tennessee is nice.
Yeah, everybody likes Tennessee.
Nashville.
I have no problem with Sandusky.
Nashville's
That's
cool.
kind of funny. But
What about
Or
New
Me-
York?
or
Would you guys
Memphis.
would you guys come to New York?
New York
Nope.
seems cool. No, he wouldn't.
It's like
Nashville-
Been there, done that.
I don't
been there,
know
done that.
which is worse though, Nashville or New York. To be fair, I feel like I'd rather go to New York sometimes. I don't know.
Nashville. Well, I've heard
Nash-
Nashville's pretty bad now.
I'll go to
It's the
Nashville.
same to me. I feel like
Because like you know
I
what,
don't
I've been to Nashville, and what I like about Nashville is you walk. It's like Bushwick, where there's bars everywhere, except instead of like club music, you just hear country music, and you're like,
Let's
yeah,
go.
you know, this is just what
I'm
they
down.
do here. They
Yeah,
watch
people
football
are
and they
afraid of
listen
the
to country.
rats. People are so afraid of the rats in Bushwick, so it probably makes more sense to go to Nashville. But there's definitely rats in Memphis, so I don't see like you can't escape how bad it is in Tennessee.
There's more than rats. They got like fucking mountain critters. So they
I
got,
showed
like-
some big rats. I showed some that Bushwick, man. I was looking at rats today that were the size of cats. It's crazy, man. Like you get rats
Yeah.
that like literally could kill a dog. It's amazing.
You know what I
Yeah.
hate when I'm driving through the country and like there's like roadkill that's clearly in the summertime that's clearly been there for like a long time, and then you got the windows down smoking a cigarette, but it stinks to high because it's just rotting, and you're like,
Yeah.
fucking A, man.
The ROUS, the rats of unusual size. That's what
Yeah,
they have in
the rats
Bushwick.
of unusual. The rats of unusual size.
Yo, you know what? All right, I got a cool story for you guys. So during COVID, there was clearly like a lockdown in the country. And you guys know about the Cannonball Run where you go from like coast to coast, like from like the East Coast to the West Coast. That was the time to beat it. Like this guy did it in like an inhuman speed because the roads were empty.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we
Right.
can hang out with Black Guy because his aunt lives in Nashville. That's pretty
I love
cool.
Let's
Black
go.
Guy. I'll hang out with Black Guy. 808.
Yeah, dude.
Anyway, yeah, like the
So
Cannonball Run, dude.
essentially, everybody should just come to California because it's the best state. So
I'll go to
just saying.
California. I would have to meet
left.
up in California. I would love California.
I mean,
You know,
California
there's
gets
so-
a bad rap, but we're
There's someone I
alright.
want to see in California. So
Andreas
I'll-
and I are not.
Disney.
We're not too far. We're not too far away from each other. So
I want
Alright,
to see
let's
Andreas
meet
in
in LA,
California.
guys. Let's go to Hollywood.
I don't
there
wanna
you
go.
go.
Oh my God.
See?
I don't want to deal with
Go to the
traffic.
Johnny, hold
You know
on,
what I-
we'll go to the Johnny Rockets in the Hollywood Highland Mall. You got to look up pictures
No.
of that place because
I wanna
it's
be-
like
don't do
I wanna
it.
be able
We
to
have
rent
to go
like a-
straight to the center of Mordor. We will call this the Fellowship of the
There
I
you
want,
Ring.
go.
I want to
don't
rent, I want
know.
to
There you
rent
go.
a nice cheap Toyota zippy car, okay, and I want to just travel with like whatever,
Yeah.
and yeah, drive around Canada. Oh, sorry, California. I don't know why I said Canada. I meant California.
Yes.
Canada would be cool. I would go to French Canada. God, let's just talk about all the other places in the world there are. Can you pick
Japan.
one, Kurt?
You want to go to
Tahiti?
Japan? We could go to Japan. I want to go to where
Yes.
Christ. I want
I'm
to go
thinking
to.
about going to
I want to go to the
Japan, actually,
Japanese.
someday.
I want to go to the Japanese Christ burial place. All right. I want to see
really
where
badly.
Christ. Yeah.
Really
Same.
badly, yeah.
Down.
And then,
Ugh.
yo, there's a lot of places in Japan. I have some connections in Japan because of the martial
Just
arts
Japan. Everywhere.
Dude,
I'm
we'll
actually
go to
part
Japan.
Japanese. I'm Mexican and Japanese.
Oh,
dude, there we
okay.
go. See, we're gonna build our
I gotta
own
go.
clan.
I gotta go to the motherland. You know. I gotta go. I've been
Yo,
to
you know what I
Mexico
love?
plenty of times.
I love how all the South Asian and the South American cultures are doing stuff with ramen. They're all making crazy. I've seen birria ramen. I've seen like Vietnamese, like South Asian ramen. It's like it's good. You know, ramen
Nice.
noodles are because ramen noodles are easily stored. You know, like you could easily
True.
dehydrate these shits and just stack it.
Maruchan all
I
day.
freaking love udon noodles, though. I
Yeah, me
can't help
too.
Myself.
Yeah,
And the
I would
South
rather
Asian
udon.
cultures have rice noodles, and the rice noodles,
I
I
love
guess,
rice noodle.
yeah, rice noodle is good.
I'm a fan. But
Clear
wait,
noodle.
Kurt, you were
Kurt.
gone for so long. I feel bad.
Let's
Like
go.
we didn't let you. Like, are you thinking about life? Do you want to talk about Kegel exercises?
I've never done Kegels personally, but I hear great reviews.
Yeah, I think everyone should start doing it. I know you think you shouldn't because you're a dude, but like you ought like. And come on, Andrew, back me up.
No, it's good for your health.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
good for
See?
your vagina.
Nobody
Very
expected
good,
him.
Very good.
No, not just dude for bros too. Bros
Your
should
prostate
be doing
is
that.
good for your prostate.
You gotta like squeeze your
Yeah.
prostate. You should be like that, like that, like that.
You know what's
And
funny?
It's the release is important too.
When
It's
you
not
do
just
like
Alright,
when
alright,
you do stuff
respect.
like karate or kung fu or martial arts and stuff, you naturally do Kegels. Like when you really
Yeah.
like exert yourself to like really do
I'm
some
gonna
techniques.
I'm gonna make T-shirts. Kegels are for
Skateboarding.
everyone.
yeah.
Go. Sign
Like
me up.
that's what
Yeah.
makes me do Kegels. Like when I do martial arts, it's like when you're at basic levels, you're just whatever.
We're gonna make Kurt write a song about Kegels. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah.
I wish you
Go
would have
ahead.
done a Lemmy. That would have been sick. Sorry, go ahead, Kurt.
No, I'm not even. Yeah, I miss you guys. I'm sorry I didn't hop on stream until now. You can stay on another hour if you want to. I'll be here. Great to see you.
Are you
Great-
rocking
great.
handlebars right now, bro?
It's I might be a mustache connoisseur because the original handlebar mustache comes up in a curl off of the side
Oh,
of your upper lips, and then this was officially known as the horseshoe. But we've
nice.
because it was popularized by Hulk Hogan, everybody came to know it as the handlebar. Which, yeah, I guess colloquially you can still call it the handlebar, but if you read it in like a mustache book, they'll call it a horseshoe.
I call it the James Hetfield, bro. That's I see Hetfield in you right now.
Hetfield, which takes precedent, Hetfield or Hulkamania? I think Hulkamania maybe.
Hetfield.
Hetfield, okay.
Depends.
Now,
It is.
I mean, I like music. Most people will be like, brother, when you rock,
I've seen Hulk Hogan play guitar, and he cannot touch James Hetfield. So that's where I'm coming.
He played bass.
Well, all right. How about? Oh wait, go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to go back to the very first conversation we were having about voices, accents, where they come from, and Hetfield actually modeled his. He was trying to sound like Lemmy from Motorhead, and then eventually his own voice like came.
The
through.
Ace of Spades. The Ace of Spades. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what he was going for. Like,
Yeah.
but he was in his early 20s, and
So did you know that he
makes
got
you
a
shoot
tattoo?
ropes harder. Thank you,
Kegels,
CW.
yeah. It makes you inseminate in a stream that comes out at a much higher velocity than men who don't do Kegels.
Hetfield
That's
actually got a tattoo on himself with his ashes, with Lemmy's ashes.
damn,
You didn't hear that? Yeah, recently he got a tattoo with Lemmy's ashes in
that's
in
tough.
ink.
His
Yeah,
seminal
he's-
work on Kegels. So here's my question. So are you familiar with this is the last question probably of the night. But like Robin Dunbar, do you know who Robin Dunbar is?
No.
Okay, good start. Have you heard of, therefore probably not, Robin Dunbar's number? Do you know what Dunbar's number is?
Yes, I've heard of that.
Oh, well, there's a start. That's actually like, you
Yeah,
wouldn't
vaguely
think that
The
familiar.
amount of people that you could know.
150 people relationship.
There you go. Yeah, I do know Dunbar's number.
So, I was remembering that in 2000 and what was it, 18, 19, that they were pushing really hard this idea of Dunbar's number, and that they'd already said this. Humans really should have 150 stable relationships, but that humans, they said that in the 90s. Now they're saying humans cannot have more than 150 stable relationships, and that 150 is maybe even somehow a perfect number because it's been tested so much that really we want to see people in these perfect scenarios, and that we need to be careful about the human workplace, because the human workplace, it's not as productive as it used to be, but that working from home wasn't as productive as we thought it would be. It actually, the productivity that we saw from working at home comes from having not the fear of being isolated. So you're pushed into a corner and you can see out from your corner, right? And so you're always feeling safe. And so every human's in the safest place in their home when they're working. And they tried to replace that by saying, oh, we'll just have everyone together in these open space workplaces. But that took away from people feeling safe because they're like, oh, well, anyone could be behind me at any time, which completely ruined the point of the safety that you feel from working at home. So that's an interesting thing that emerged right around the quarantine.
Yeah. Also, like
this-
providing people with solitude is dangerous for the status quo preservers. Like that, if you give people like solitude, they're going to naturally do powerful shit with it. Maybe powerfully evil, powerfully good, but
I think it depends on the mentality, though. You know what I mean?
either way, they're going to go through their
Yeah.
first. If you give a person like really truly prolonged solitude, they're either going to go through their worst stages,
Yeah.
and they're going to confront why they're doing it, and then they're hopefully
And then they'll
going to
fix themselves.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this
yeah.
is why I think reality shows are so beautiful. I really think it's like the meaning of life. First of all, it's like you take a person who's fucked up, you put them in a situation that makes them realize they're fucked up, and then you watch them take steps to not be fucked up. And that's why like reality shows are so I cry, like they make me cry. This is beautiful.
Well, I was wondering what you think about this idea of having, these 15 layers, 15 good friends, 50 friends, 150 meaningful contacts. What do you think about this idea of quality over quantity relationships? What do you think about Dunbar's number and how You basically through social media have been shadow banned and suppressed into a series of social controls that keep you at about 150 people on purpose.
I think it's beautiful. I think it's true, and I think like there's credence to that, and you could even simplify that further. Like, if you want me to show you what a person's really about, give me their 5 closest friends, and the amalgamation of those 5 people is probably who that person is. It's you are who you are, the 5 people you spend the most time with. So
Respect.
Yeah.
Agree.
But what if so the problem with that is that I have 5 different friends every day on every different show, and so no offense, but I feel like
I don't take.
No, but I just
I-
feel I don't mean it like that. I just mean like
No,
I'm
yeah,
like
yeah.
Mary.
I think I relate to that.
I'm Mary Poppins. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
everybody
'Cause
feels
you-
like a color of the
Because
rainbow.
here's what I think. I think like once you discover your true self, you realize your true self is everyone else's true self. And once you get to that stage,
Yeah.
there's really no point in distinguishing. There's really at that point, there's no point in like trying to say like, yo, you're different. I'm just a different version of you.
Well, we're fractional pieces of the same whole.
Yeah.
We are gold
different
chunks
fractals,
off
yeah.
of the gold bar. You know what I mean? We're all gold, just at different
So like to
density,
maximize your as your individual potential, it is to be the self in a small group. Like you think the 5 to 7, 150. Like this idea is to help you realize that maximum potential. But once you're there, you realize your mirrorverse.
I mean, seeing the number 150, I don't feel like I've ever known 150 people in my life. What does that say about me? I don't know.
You're probably not.
I'm
You're
a
probably
very
not.
quiet person.
You're probably not counting. I
In-
mean, like you got a show, so I'm sure you've met. You've probably interacted with slightly more people than you realize. I don't know, but
Recently, yeah, within the last year, more so. But I'm just very quiet. I'm very reserved. But I appreciate human potential, and I appreciate those around me, and that's why I do what I do. I like it because I like learning other people's stories.
1,500 people you can recognize.
Never.
500
Never known 1,500
people
in my life.
But no. This is like the all right. Also, Kurt, what do you think? Is this something that you relate to? Because you've got American Time Machine. You've kind of grown out of this. Like you've got 5 loved ones, 15 good friends,
Right.
50 friends, 150 meaningful contacts, 500 acquaintances that you might have interacted with ever, and 1,500 people you can recognize. Does that seem like what do you think about that?
Plausible.
It's seems like a bit of a generalization that sometimes there's meaning in generalizations. That's fine. I think the implications of how big we've gotten as a society, I think maybe there's some there might be some drawbacks to having such a big vast empire if that's the limitation. So you can only have 150 meaningful contacts. Well, why are we voting for people so many steps away from that? It's like it's hard to feel a sense of community if you have a system that's very disengaged from that friend group, I guess. But I mean a lot of people that I've known now. I'm 34. I know I look great for my age, thank you. Yeah. It's like I'm 34, and it seems like a lot of people flow in and out of your life, and sometimes, that can feel a certain way. I guess sometimes it feels painful to experience the transience of life and see relationships kind of fall off, but there's always opportunity in that. There's always opportunity to see new people and get to know them, like your favorite people in your life. They might be people that you've never met just yet, so some of my most thankful experiences for sure have been relationships or people that I've met in my 30s, so far. So and thank God I'm not as stupid as I was 10 years ago. That's kind of the goal, it's the 20-year-old version of me was pretty naive comparatively, and I assume that of hopefully everyone. If you're not getting slightly less naive each and every year, maybe there's a problem. But we all are
Maybe
blinded.
You shouldn't vote.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't vote. I don't know, but that's a whole other thing. Tulsi Gabbard's voting for Trump now. She flipped. She's Republican.
She's flipped. Yeah.
She's so hot.
That's
She's
kind of wild.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah,
if you're listening to this, I think you're so attractive, mommy.
It's super cool to watch you flip, Tulsi.
Yeah.
Not
Is
fair.
that too far? I'm sorry.
I wrote a song about how attractive Tulsi Gabbard is, but she still hasn't called me. But
Hey,
she's
a badass.
married.
She's a badass motherfucker. Like she's a BAMF. She's a BAMF.
I think that the Americans are known to have a network of slightly larger, hefty 290 network to the measly British 150 Dunbar network. So I don't know if that just says something about America, but we're supersizing our friendships, and that's a good thing. I think we should be doing.
Maybe we're stretching our mental capacities.
Well,
maybe
you know what?
that's
You know what?
a
I think
bad
it's
I think it's like if this is a sign that British villages 100 in the 11th century had 150 people, and that Americans now are doubling that, right, in our relationships.
Yeah.
This is 100 years ago. So you can only imagine with the internet that very soon we should be 10xing. We should be seeing 100. We should be seeing 1,500 people that we have meaningful relationships with. Not just,
you know how I would describe it. Like I have a lot of Russian friends, and they always describe to me, it's like, yeah, when you see a Russian kid dealing with another Russian person, like it's like a different relationship. And same thing with any other culture, really. So I'm like, if that could just be all humans, really, like if they share that same feeling of familiarity, I think.
Plus, there's all the parasocial relationships that we have, and it like I can't even tell you how many rock stars or like historical figures or fictional characters that like I know all of the lore of, and like there's maybe 4 people in my whole life that I could say I know a comparable amount.
You could probably go to a different country where you don't know the language at all, and you mimic like Luke Skywalker, and they will be like, "Oh yeah, Star Wars. I know exactly what you're referring to."
Oh yeah, if you like ride a bike or a motorcycle or a skateboard, or you do crocheting or something, like those things are pretty universal.
And you can probably draw something. It's like
just
Music.
interacting in this way, and Andreas obviously is presenting the platform for this. I don't know if this is exactly what you're speaking of, but it feels like it to me right now. And you're speaking of the internet, and this is that connection. I've never really talked to you guys. I met you guys through Andreas, and I feel like we've had a little meaningful conversation, and this was cool, So it's like, but is it up to the individual? Is it the individual's wanting? Or I mean, like how much of it is the individuals wanting to connect as opposed to just it happened randomly? What are the percentages against?
What if it happened by fate? What if it happened by destiny? What if people of a certain frequency are naturally going to be like connected to each other like magnets, like orbits like coming into contact with each other that just naturally flow together in a specific like cycle or pattern.
Well, I want to hear what Andreas has to say about that.
Oh shit!
I think it's no. I mean, I just think it's
no.
interesting.
I love you too, man. I'm just saying, I want to hear what Andreas has.
I think it's interesting that we're at a point where we don't have to physically be in the same space to have this much synchronicity of thought, right? And so they're used to have excuses for that. We're like, wow, I'm thinking about my friend, and then you might call me because you're also thinking about me, and that's crazy. And I think we had that all the time anyway, but we only recently had the capacity to call each other when we had that feeling to begin with, and we might be able to go back to a point where we were really just able to feel so clearly what was going on in each other's heads elsewhere, but that maybe isn't something you want. Maybe you want to be able to completely separate yourself from another's consciousness so that you can be you, they can be they. We can have the experiences we need to have that can merge or be isolated from each other in order to be impacted by each other's experiences. So it's really cool that we have like keys to locks to experiences that we can kind of interact with on a cyber noospheric level. Like this creation of a synthetic mind that we're sharing is really fascinating. I think that that's also why it's interesting to wonder about language. Are we really happy with English? We could teach our kids another language, right?
Sure.
It could be Sanskrit because I like that one. Maybe AI will build a new language. Maybe it'll be something that is emergent, that AI is like, well, the more practical way for kids to communicate will be to say this or that or to whistle. We could see a lot of things happen really quickly because of that. But I don't know. I think it's also amazing that it doesn't have to be. I mean, it's dangerous that it doesn't have to be conscious. Like you're so easily controlled. If you see a commercial that says it's too expensive to do this, and you get a free pass to do that or a discount to do that.
So here's the deal. I mean, sorry to interject, but I just want to say before, real quick, like none of this is new exactly, right? Like if we could proceed, where we're basically talking about a magical world of magical thinking, and magical rules have been written down in the past. Like there have been frameworks for like ethical use of these abilities. It's like, do as thou will, just don't fuck with someone else's will. Don't mess with someone else's ability.
But everyone's will is so messed with. That's the thing. The entire system.
So we got to fix that.
But how can you? Because the highway exists. As soon as you get on the highway, you're in the flow. The flow exists, and so the flow is already manipulated. I mean, it's a completely synthetic flow to begin with. There shouldn't be roads, right? We've created those roads. So I don't know. I mean, the only future I see is so natural. It requires destruction of everything. It's where the roads are abandoned and we have drones that pick us up and drop us off where we need to be. Like so much.
Or teleportation.
Yeah, but I think Ray Bradbury has a book about a kid who won't use the teleporter, and he always has mud on his shoes because he walks to school, and he's like 5 minutes late sometimes, and they have to get a shrink for him to explain to him. They're like, it's safe. Like, is there something wrong with you? Like,
don't trust it.
Are you like, why don't you trust us? Do you not trust us? Why won't you use the teleporter?
Sure.
He's like, no, I just like walking outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's also we're gonna hit a point where people forget the beauty of existing. Like, well, I can just get directly to work. Like, well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should spend some time being forced to endure the craziest parts of the environment, like wind in your face, bugs.
It's like exercise, like riding a bicycle or something. Like do yoga.
I agree with that kid. I got mud on my shoes too, and I will forever, man.
Suffering's key. Like, I think it's weird when you look at like the earliest
yoga is beautified
hypotheses.
suffering, by the way. That's my theory. I think yoga is beautifying physical suffering and applying that beautiful
yoga is posturing. That's what Prabhupada would say. He's like, yoga
it's
is
also
posturing. It's gymnastics.
I think Islam and yoga are the
physical
same
yoga,
thing.
physical, yeah.
Like the idea of being in submission to, or like what I see in Andrew's picture of this yin yang cog, right? I think that is the yoke. You're in the union, you're part of the system, and you're moving with reality as best you can. Like you're surfing on the flow, right? That's like the goal.
Yeah.
American Time Machine makes music.
Yeah.
That's pretty good stuff.
Awesome music.
He's not Jesus.
Thanks.
Just so everybody knows. He's pretty close.
He's got a lot of albums here. Check out the discography. You should do like a Bandcamp thing where like everyone could buy your whole discography.
Yes.
Yo,
There
someday
you go.
APM, I'm calling it right now. APM is going to have their own music festival. We're going to do a music festival.
Let's go.
It
going
seems
to
pretty
do it.
practical.
Yeah.
It seems like the most simple, logical thing that you could possibly do.
And everyone's gonna come together. We're gonna connect, and we're gonna get messed up, and it's gonna be fun.
Like
and
on
hopefully no one gets
Minecraft.
hurt.
We're gonna do it in Minecraft or like a virtual.
No, like real life.
like,
I mean,
what was that, dude?
maybe in Woodstock, maybe in Tennessee. It could be anywhere. But Blue Dreamer Broadcast has episodes on episodes. There's a few of them here that include members of this show. Terrorists, my own, American Time Machine. There are all sorts of cool conversations he's done recently. I highly recommend you check them out. Terrorist one's like 4 hours long. It's super bass. This is like I'm jealous. I'm like, wow, dude, look what he did. It's like 440, 220. Like that's like a holy number.
Yeah, no, that's not real. It's not that long.
Dude, just
Oh yeah,
just
I
go with
listened
it.
to it on
sorry,
Spotify. I thought it was
sorry.
like half that.
I killed it. Sorry. Fuck. Go ahead.
Super bass. Just like it never ends, right? Like you guys just talk about like your dreams. Anyway, also go to American Time Machine's episode, 3 hours, 56 minutes, 57 seconds. Just never ends. Just keeps going. Sorry, I can't help myself, Dr. Ray.
I fucking love it, dude. That's so funny.
No, but like honestly, really good conversation and with my favorite people. So everybody get up on it and check it out. Like pretty cool.
And
you can
any
also
other
check out-
musicians out there that want to hit me up, anybody in the chat, anybody anywhere out there, thank you, Andreas. But anybody really for real, just hit me up.
Yeah, he's got Blue Dreamer 00, Isaac Contreras right there on Instagram. Pretty easy way to reach out. And yeah, he's doing some cool podcasts. Hare Krishna, bro. Glad you were here.
Hare Krishna.
And then Bat Monkey Customs, the family man with a plan. Look at his dream. Wait, this is the wrong link. Sorry, bro. It's like your family. Like, here's all your family's photos, but here's also your family photo. This is
Nice.
this is his daughter on a tall bike. Just like, look how base that is. I mean, yeah, I would watch this remake of the Terminator.
Yo, the tall bike.
Let's go.
Fucking tall
Like,
bike.
Come with me if you want to live. Like, that's really what we would. I would watch that movie. I'm telling you right now.
Like
I
a
would love
Bugsy
it.
Malone version of Terminator.
Dude, because a child Terminator would really, if you think about it, it's more
Oh,
cunning,
dude. That's
more
amazing.
surprising, and they can get in smaller places, so they can like,
And they seem
yeah.
they seem pretty fearless, bro, riding those tall bikes like that. That's dope.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's got fearless kids. You know
Two
what I mean? Like,
wheels,
well,
two
they know
wheels.
what's really out there to be afraid of. That's
Respect.
what
Bump between your legs, you know.
it's a good
That's really
parent
what it is.
does.
Oh,
Yeah, so everybody check out Bat Monkey Customs. I'm a big fan, and you can get some crazy leather work. I'm always surprised.
I'm selling
putting
these
guillotine-
shirts.
Wait, let me see here.
on it.
I got 3 smalls and 3 mediums. Just like shoot me a DM if you want one. 13.12 plus shipping.
Living the dream. All right, I'll take it. And then let's go over to Terrorist. And Terrorist should definitely follow him on Twitter because he's got this 11/11 Make a Wish thing going on right here.
Oh,
which I just thought
shit.
was just
That's
too
crazy.
base. Yeah, so
Ooh.
pop up on the Terrorist. Follow Terro Risk on X, and also there you can go to YouTube. That's the easiest way to find him on YouTube, and you should subscribe there. He's got 93 subscribers. Love is the law. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. But like, you could always Thalemite his account really quickly by like subscribing. Just do an extra sub right there. One of the reasons I would recommend it is because he does these like cool, cute little like shorts that are kind of fun to like tune into if you want to see like something real quickly. He also has these awesome podcast conversations with really cool moody lighting. You know what I mean? It's like super great. I love these conversations. I want to go to New York just so I can like hang out. Like, on
Yeah,
one
we
of
got to
these
do one of these,
conversations.
dude. I'm so stoked. I would love it if you just got on the mic with me in the apartment studio.
Dude,
It'd be
laser
so
lighting
sick.
like that just makes me happy. Here's like an extra like. So everybody check out Terrorist Podcast because he's doing amazing things all week long. And he's also making music. So that's another thing I want you to check out. All these guys are serious musicians. So that's pretty sweet. And American Time Machine.
American Time
Send me
Machine.
money. Go to Xirtus.com and send me money. Send me money. Melt down your jewelry and join our cult. And, you know, God bless you. God bless you all. I appreciate that you were here.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Advanced philosophy memes. We have made good memes. Advanced philosophy